I've talked about this so many times, but it seems to be this isn't true in every single case, but a lot of what I consider to be the greatest movies of all time, the first scene is super important for several reasons, but one of the main ones is that it's going to be the whole story in microcosm. It's going to be making a very distinct point. It's going to be a hook, and it's going to be something that kicks everything off, so to speak. And I feel like this is one that qualifies quite a bit. Like, what is happening in our opening? And it's like, oh, well, it's the park, getting up to probably some kind of regular operation, moving of a dinosaur from one place to another. And you have shit tons of men, loads of technology, and all kinds of orders and security and weapons everywhere. And they're just trying to move a velociraptor into an enclosure. That is it.
Right.
And the way that this is built and shot, it's like a horror movie.
And the score,
yes, which we can't play, you guys, but trust us.
You haven't heard the theme yet.
No,
it's great. The score is very
doing it once again.
I feel like everybody's had to have heard the theme.
Everyone's heard it, even if they don't know what it's from. Everyone's heard it.
Well,
I mean, the great thing about John Williams is one of the things he's not necessarily known for is his horror scores.
I had remembered it as there were no shots of the dinosaur. It was only on the rewatch that I was like, there is one that's kind of clean enough. And I think obviously it's Spielberg having the close-up of Muldoon and then the Velociraptor, like this lock of man versus nature, which is entirely what I believe this scene is pretty much about. Look at the amount of man-made tech that's here. Even like the tint of blue around here, which comes across to me as, like green versus blue is a lot of what it can be for tech versus nature, depending on your choices, of course. I like to look into these things when it's a movie this good. And like what is the big thing that fucks all of this up is they underestimate the Velociraptor's strength. Pretty much that is.
Yes, and then of course the Velociraptor's fundamental inability to understand like what they're even trying to do. Like, he doesn't know, like, oh yeah, this is them putting me... Like, it's an animal, right? Who didn't live with humans. And it's just this fundamental clash of, like, these creatures that didn't coexist. And shouldn't coexist, really.
Well, yeah, there's no... that's the whole chaos element. There's so much that you could never possibly be prepared for or understand. That's what the warning of this film is.
To control them, yeah. Like, the expecting that you can control them, like, it's just an illusion.
And this is obviously one of the big first examples of how ill-prepared this park is. You'll have Hammond telling you throughout, no, it's fine, it's good, it's great, everything's paid for, it's all good, 100%, it's going to work, and it's just like we keep seeing all of these aspects failing, which is really important to allow the plotline to happen, the fact that this is an ill-prepared state of park, but at the same time, it's not something they've put zero money or effort into, it's just the amount... The sheer level of power you need to be able to outclass the power that you're generating is big old themes in this film.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, it's good for a hook because you... it's kind of funny looking back on it, like, because now the problem with the newer films is they think like one Velociraptor is boring, one T-Rex is boring. We need the hyper genetically altered super mutant dinosaur that can fly, go invisible, evade X-rays and stuff.
It's kind of interesting how much you can trace that with other franchises running at the same time, like with Terminator.
Bigger, more.
We can't just have a T-800. It's got to be like a hyper, like it's got its own magnetic field and everything, and it can like fly and shit. You know,
and then we got time travel, and then we got different.
And you see that with Predator as well. The new cool Predator. He was bulletproof. He was super big, tall, strong, invisible, running around wild, killing people, everybody in the forest, and everyone's just shooting their guns and exploding everything. And it's like, I feel like you didn't grasp at all what made these films so popular, but all right.
It's something that you can't help but recognize over and over when you're watching this movie, is how small scale and intimate a lot of these tense encounters are. It's literally just a velociraptor in a kitchen with some kids, and you're like, oh shit, it's just like one or two. Or it's a single T-Rex fucking around with a couple Ford Explorers. You're like, and yet it's terrifying. It's really scary, and it's got a lot of tension. There's not these insane explosions going off, these massive dinosaur stampedes, exploding volcanoes.
A million like pterodactyls flying around grabbing people.
It's just too much.
and
You're
as-
just like, I just don't. My brain just can't believe this. It's so much happening. But a velociraptor chasing me in a kitchen, I can imagine that. I can believe that. That's why it's so scary.
nice and straightforward, nice and terrifying. As Thunder just referenced, yeah, the 1,000 star destroyer Death Stars. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's a pretty good example.
That
of
might be the
just-
best
that's-
example because that sounds like a joke.
It's a
Yeah,
meme.
you know what these are. What if there were 1,000 of them? Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
aren't you
It's not even-
scared?
It's not even as creative as like trying to create new crazy dinosaurs. It's just copy paste, like the thing that you remember, from the old better films.
So yeah, to me the first scene is like a big ol' as I said, hook and a focus on thematically what we're going to be dealing with. Next scene is almost strictly plot. You still get character in all of these because obviously that's where the information's coming from. But it's like lawyer arrives on what is a really like dinky and strange method without an welcoming from Hammond, because it just represents how much he's not favored. This is the lower end of the character in terms of value. Nobody likes the lawyer. He's kind of annoying. He's very focused on money. He's kind of an idiot too. He has many lines that relate to him just being like he just doesn't understand much of anything.
Out of his element here.
Absolutely, but obviously he represents a very important part of the film. And yeah, they basically just explain the park is being built, and a lot of insurance guys and other investors are not sure they might want to axe the program because it just seems too unruly, sort of thing. They need reassurances from experts. You're gonna have to grab some, and one of them that has been suggested as a more trendy one to get an approval from is Ian Malcolm, and then he's like he's looking for some others more classic types, being the archaeologists that are currently under Hammond's sort of money right now. He's funding their current expedition, right? He said and he's going to look to do it further if they agree to this. Because I guess Hammond at this point is quite rich, but Jurassic Park is still going to cost you a shit ton.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is just making clear that that is going to be why everything is happening. It's very straightforward. These are the kind of things you would expect would happen. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't be long before there would be a hell of a lot of government intervention with the more knowledge of this place getting further and further well known. Yeah, and ending with a big old shot of the mosquito and amber.
Yeah, which is nice in terms of the level of symbolism, ain't it?
Every time, yeah. And then next scene already, it's just like we're
what
going.
happens to bloodsuckers?
And Alan and Ellie are just organizing their architectural dig.
It's just let's sort of set up expectations in your mind about these two characters, because it's all just character, right? Them at the dig site. Who are these people? And of course, brought forth through the performance as well. You just get a really clear sense of these as individuals, rather than just people who have been plopped into like a dinosaur movie.
Well, what's Alan's first line? I hate computers. There's a couple references in this film to him being almost incompatible with technology, and I've always seen it as a symbolic again of him being more in tune with nature than tech.
Because he mentions that when they're using the computer to basically like map out the area so that they can find all of the bones. I think he said something along the lines of like, well, what's the fun in that? Basically, the fun comes from digging around. Like, what's the point of digging anymore?
Yeah. What's fun in that?
And as he points to it, it goes staticky, and I think she says like he's Dr. Grant isn't machine compatible, and yeah, just the continuing themes of the excess technology or new advancements in technology and man versus nature. The Grant throughout this film seems to be the primary character that respects and understands everything that's happening on a more fundamental level, and what's ethical, what we shouldn't be doing, but doesn't necessarily like start up big old debates about it. He's just he's always acting in the interest of trying to make sure everything works out, because like that comes into full clear when they're talking in the when they're having lunch. He's like the last one to give his opinion. Well,
yeah, he's Attenborough appeals to him as like, come on, like surely you know what's up, right? This is all great, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a
Grant's
lot to
like,
talk about.
I don't know about that.
That scene is rich thematically.
Well, yeah, because like the next thing that significance that happens is Alan Grant terrifying a child, in the best way possible.
Instantly makes him my favorite character.
He's
Alan Grant stocks instantly rise.
well, it is great because this, yeah, what 7-8 minutes in, and this is the big setup for what dealing with a raptor is like, and this film, because I don't know how accurate it would be necessarily to what we know about raptors compared to other dinosaurs, but this film kind of makes raptors seem like the most threatening dinosaur that's ever existed. Like, and we don't want to fuck with
kind
them.
of interesting, right? Because with T-Rex, everybody knows what the T-Rex is. It kind of like speaks for itself. Whereas building up Velociraptors, yeah, it seems like this film kind of that was a goal, was to build them up to the point that they're the final set piece. The T-Rex is kind of the first set piece of the movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from the Velociraptors sort of building up their intelligence and their coordination.
Yeah, they do a good job at sort of displaying different kinds of danger. The T-Rex isn't the same kind of dangerous as a Velociraptor is, but they're both very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Grant destroys kid with facts and logic. Hell yeah. Debate 1. Because, yeah, the kid is basically like, they sound like chickens and idiots.
It looks like a chicken.
Yeah, and then Grant is like,
wow.
You know what's so neat about them? And he throws in the line, by the way, you may expect that they're like T-Rexes, where if you stay still, you'll be okay. So that's just going to be helpful for later when that's re-implemented. But he says, no, they'll be staring at you, and you'll be staring at it, and then you'll be attacked. But not from the front, from the sides. They hunt together, they use coordinated attack patterns. And
it isn't just...
They eat you alive.
From the side. Not from the front, from the side. And then what happens? What happens to your boy Muldoon?
That's the thing, you could mix the two scenes together. And
there's a lot of setup and payoff in this film. They build up so many things that come back to be leveraged in the story later on.
It's really good stuff. And yeah, and then they have the little chat about kids. He's on a more character, like, fundamental level. He goes through a little arc in this about dealing with children, finds them all to be rather annoying, and yet is probably one of the best carers of the children in the whole movie compared to most characters.
When push comes to shove, you know, he leaps into the fray and he does what he thinks is right, or he does his best, you know.
Hammond would probably say he definitely respects this dig. He's paying for it and all that stuff, but he doesn't treat it properly, which is representative of his park. It's like it's there but not there fully. He doesn't fully understand what he's dealing with. What is this place, and why should you be giving it more care? And he's just like, well, it's it's where they dig up the bones, and then that's how they find out about the dinosaurs.
Kind of the same as like when people, it's like, oh, that animal, that wild animal, oh, I want to pet him and squeeze him and everything. It's like, why don't you just leave it alone? You know, like, why don't you just respect it from a distance? It's kind of like that. Like,
yeah, the considerate thing to do would be land further away and walk here, but oh well. And yeah, you have the sufficient outrage from Alan and Ellie, but then they both realize, oh, this is the guy who's funding us, right? And
and their immediate pivot in their demeanor.
I really love Richard Attenborough throughout this film, by the way. He's so joyful. Yeah. And
he's so charming.
Yeah, he's so much fun and everything, but there's just that underlying, like, he knows all of this is holding together with just strings, and he's so desperate to get it to the world. He's so desperate to give people the experiences he wants to see. His enjoyment almost comes directly from other people being, like, in awe of the stuff that he can show them. Kind of reminds me of Prestige, actually.
Yeah, it was the look on their faces.
And yeah, it's a really... He's very, very unique in the whole storyline for his point of view. That's what he's motivated by. But at the same time, he'll have a crossover with lots of different characters at lots of different times. Because that's the thing, right? Like, everyone's core values are different, but they'll all intersect at different points. It creates for really good banter, bouncing, and... Because, like, this would be a good example, right? Those two are outraged at what he's done to the dig until they find out he's funding it. And then they're like, no, we're not going to come to your crazy whatever the hell this is. And he's like, I'll give you lots of money. And they're like, okay.
Fund your dig for the next 3 years.
Like, yeah, that'll be...
Money is it's a thing.
Does do the motivation.
Keep digging. I need money.
Still, probably wouldn't be enough if they knew what they were getting into with the whole getting eaten by raptors and stuff. But yeah, that's the part you didn't mention. And yeah, that's that. It's all sorted. And it's like, so... Jesus Christ, we're moving so fast. Like, we've already accomplished so much in terms of, we've established our main heroes, the main plot line, thrust for everything happening, what's going to be there, and setting up exactly how this is all going to go already. Plenty of clues. It's like, so what's next? It's like, well, kind of the villain setup scene, which is also very quick. For good old Mr. Nedry, Dennis Nedry, played by the wonderful Wayne Knight, who I know from this, Rat Race. He was in Seinfeld as well, right?
Don't forget his great turn as one of the people in Basic Instinct.
Oh yeah, he is in that.
He's questioning Catherine Trammell. He says, "You ever tie him up?" His name, he plays Mr. Corelli.
He's like sweating in there.
Oh yeah,
Dodson,
so
we got
good.
Dodson here. So we were talking to me and Rags when we were rewatching this about how memeable this film is and how it's really evolved well into sort of modern culture. There's so many funny, there's like genuinely funny, and then it can be turned into so many different applications for making really good jokes and stuff. It's the meme factor for a film is a thing, and science will study it years from now, I'm sure.
Yeah, this idea of this film came out so long ago, and yet so many of its scenes are not just iconic, but at least in terms of internet culture, they've been able to just persist through memes, which, I don't know, there's something, maybe there's something there, because it's not often that really, I mean, how often is it that really bad movies that people don't care about get memed a lot?
Yeah, it happens, but...
it happens,
like
but,
The Room was one of the biggest meme movies ever, right?
Yeah.
But I think the interesting comparison we were thinking about is the meme factor for the prequels versus the sequels.
Yes.
Prequels.
The sequels don't get memed.
No.
Because no one like everyone's a lot of people are super defensive about them, and no one likes them, or so few people like them relatively. So, I don't know. It's something to. I don't know. I don't know what the connection
there's something
is,
there,
there might be
and we'll
something
find
there.
out what it means in the future, probably. Right?
Probably.
We're in the era. The era has to be complete before we can look back, or something. I'm not totally just making this up as I go. But hey, this is just setting up, and it's really quick. He works for Hammond. He doesn't feel he's being paid enough. With what is done with such a really great line, right? Like he looks down at the bill being delivered, and he's like, "Don't cheap out on me now, Dodgson. That was Hammond's mistake." Like,
yep.
Nicely
well, we know why
done.
he's here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so simple, so quick.
That's his motivation.
And they even show us like the technology he's got to steal the thing, and his role is going to be enough to get in. It's done in like a minute. And you even have Wayne Knight making an absolutely bizarre noise. To this day, I remember jokes about how he sounds like a velociraptor. That squeal he does. Yeah, I just played it for the stream. There you go. It's I don't know. it's such a weird noise, but they just Wayne Knight being very, very happy and excited, which is cool. I think the angle here is that he's just like, oh, I'm like a 007 type thing here. I look at my technology; it's all secret and cool, and it still works. Like all excited when he's going to be the biggest reason everything falls apart. This film definitely has things to say about capitalism, but it's like a super unregulated and focused view on making money is obviously going to lead you to making extreme unethical mistakes. There's a reason why everything needs focus, understanding, wisdom, regulation. You need to understand what you're fucking doing before you do all of what they do, which gives us results like they do. And yeah, then we get Ian Malcolm introduced, and it's like, this is the last thing we got to do before we can basically start the film. They're all without their seatbelts for now because it's safe, and then when they're going to be landing, he says it's going to be rocky. It always is, so everybody belt up. And Alan's belt is not. He hasn't got the male and female sides of the connectors. Everyone else does. And Hammond is like, Alan, come on. By the time you put it on, we'll be landed. Like, which I think is a good representation of the lack of safety sort of things that relate to the park and the fact that they're ill-prepared, because they're all fussing over it. They don't seem to be able to figure it out, which it's like, it's a belt. How could this be hard? Is it like a big mistake or whatever? But there's a lot of that throughout the film. But it's also pretty clear when you start to think about it what it represents. The old, you can't create a belt out of female, right? And then it's like, well, what if you tie them together instead of sinking them in? That'll work well enough for what I need. And it's like, oh man, yeah, you find a way, huh? When you're in, when you need something done, when something's got to happen. And start to think about later on in the film where Dr. Wu explains that all the animals have been engineered to remain female. They deny them the sort of development into male, and so you have no worries about any offspring. And then, of course, Ian Malcolm says, "Well, he has. We'll go over it, but he's got a pretty good speech in that scene about how this is an insane level of power you hope to control and you won't be able to, and that life finds a way."
No. He says life finds
that
a way.
Is very important. I will.
It's
agree.
so weird.
Life
Finds a way.
Well, this is the weird. One of the first things he says, I think, is like, "So you guys dig up bones?" He sort of like agrees that he goes, "Ah ha ha ha." Like what? It's so funny because obviously Sam Neill is playing an absolute very normal straight man type character in Alan, and you can tell he's got a lot of just issues with Ian as the first half of the film is going. Finds him frustrating because they're such different people. Which leads to them landing, which we kind of went over. And the car ride begins, and we get a reestablishment from the lawyer that, hey, if this place doesn't pass, then we're going to be shutting you down, which I think is the most interesting, right? I think Hammond points this out. The one that seems to be most against him at the beginning is the lawyer, while everyone else is sort of like on board for the adventure. But by the time we actually get through the initial tours, all teams flip. The lawyer is 100% on board, and everyone else is like, I don't know about this. Seems like you're holding on to too much more than you can necessarily bear. Which brings us to the Brachiosaur scene. One that
the famous Brachiosaur.
Yeah, it's the 20-minute mark, and they're now showing off to you what you're going to be gaining from watching this film, right? And what a good idea to start with a very huge, but still the more I say harmless, but a herbivore. Which there's something about the way that they approach doing the build-up in this film of what dinosaurs they show at what scenes, in what order, I guess. Because there's so many things if we had a completely neutral state, what do you want to nail with dinosaurs? Like, well, we gotta have the T-Rex. Like, yeah, we'll have that. It's like raptors being the like super fast and scary and vicious dinosaurs. Like, yeah, we want to have them. It's like, what else? Like, well, you're gonna want to showcase the majesty of the life itself, right? It's not, you don't need them to be killers to be interesting. And that's one of the things I think that's just completely gone from any of the newer iterations of Jurassic franchise. It wasn't really about the fact that they kill you. That makes for really interesting sort of storytelling tension and stuff. But a part of this was supposed to be that dinosaurs are so incredible and amazing because they're life that did exist once upon a time, and nature itself is enough to marvel at. And to capture that is honestly difficult. And I'm impressed that he managed to do it so well, Spielberg. But it's not too much of a surprise, being that he's made so many incredible films as well.
I think one of the things that's worth praising is the way that, like, when it rears up and Grant puts his arms out, there's a good direction in terms of what the actors are doing. Obviously, there's nothing there for them when they're acting it out. So good direction between what, there needs to be an understanding. This is what your character's doing. This is what you're reacting to. So it helps make the thing that's added in post and CGI more believable. Because if all the characters are acting very realistically and believably as to their environment, then it sells the environment. In much the same way that how good it looks does. When Thanos was made, we had the big Thanos head that was up tall, which was, of course, very goofy at the time, but it's so that they knew where to look to Thanos' face. And in a lot of other scenes that aren't directed well, or in other productions, you have the special effects of either forced perspective or stuff that's added in CGI, things of that nature. And the real people in the scene, they're not looking where they need to be looking. They're not looking at the eye level of the character that's being put into the movie. And so there's that big disconnect. It's like, why are you looking at, like, you're supposed to have this this fairy or this something, whatever it is that's in CGI, but your eyes clearly are not following this character. There's something along the way, the communication was broken.
I mean, it was,
so that helps a lot in this scene.
It's lucky that Robert got to talk about it, because he'll be back. He's just, but like, he's going to be out for this one. But luckily, he talked about it earlier.
Already talked about a lot of it. It's this scene is iconic. Like this, there's no other way to describe it. Well, there's plenty of other ways to describe it, but it's iconic.
I think the one thing this film can benefit from that it's very rare to benefit from is that the insane thing that we're seeing, it was a thing. It's not made up. Like,
Right,
at least
like-
not wholesale made up.
There was, dinosaurs existed. What they looked like is kind of hard to say sometimes. I think like our perspective on dinosaurs and what they look like has changed a lot over recent years, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, you have a sense of what a dinosaur is, and just getting to see one walk around, and it's how they build up to the reveal, right? I mean, not only in this scene, but like the 25, 30 minutes building up to this moment. But like just having it be focusing on the character's reactions to the dinosaur at first without seeing it, and then the big wide pan over to reveal the dinosaur. It's just the perfect way to do it.
Well, and it's so
It's a
cool
great
because
choice.
Sam Neill sells it perfectly that this is a man who's known about this stuff for so long, and he can't believe
And
he's
now he's
actually
seeing
seeing it. No way this is real.
Yeah. Just like, it's dinosaur, like he can barely even utter the words.
Yeah, and you see, they are absolutely stunned and in awe from the fact that they're able to experience this at all. And then I love the fact that we have the direct comparison of right up to the lawyer, and he's like, we're going to make so much money. Like, the focus, the values so clearly in tow. It doesn't matter how overt something like that would be, because that is exactly what he would be thinking about. Because it's just true.
Mine turns to.
And you know what?
And isn't it
Highlights
interesting,
something
the
so fucking annoying. There's a line in the newer ones where it's like, people got bored of dinosaurs. We had to genetically engineer new things because, dinosaurs is just meh eventually. It's like, fuck off. Like, zoos are still functional and beneficial. Like, the idea that dinosaurs, like, you've got a worldwide audience that have to come to you to see that. Something that you can't see anywhere else. The idea that people got bored of looking at dinosaurs, especially when there's so many dinosaurs you can even create and showcase.
Yeah, I think the number of species that we're at now, that I think we know of, it's in the thousands now, right?
It's just
I wouldn't be surprised, that there's an incredible amount of variety. And even if it's just the fact that they
Not that
have
we
this
know of.
attitude is a testament to the failure of their own creativity and a failure to recognize what made dinosaurs so terrifying and awe-inspiring in the first Jurassic Park movie. Like, if you can't make dinosaurs work with people in a movie, then you're just a failure.
I think it was just an actual worry from the higher ups that when they make their new Jurassic Park films, they need to go further than T-Rexes because that's boring now. Like, a complete misunderstanding of how any of this works. And so they actually put it into the narrative for why it happened. Like, because people are bored of them. It's like, I don't believe you, and I'll never believe you. It's never going to happen. I can't imagine I'll ever get... I'm not even bored of seeing Jurassic Park multiple
I'm not bored
times.
of watching, exactly, yeah. I'm not bored of seeing, like, animatronic and CG dinosaurs.
Imagine they were real, walking around. That would be... it's just annoying. So Alan is like, the natural question after seeing all that is like, how? How is this possible? And then you have this delivery from Attenborough that's like, I'll show you. Like... He's very he's so genuine, I believe. I think any normal person would easily be like, well, I'm not going to show you anything about how it's created, patents and specific sort of, that's like seeing how the sausage is made. We're not going to let you do that. You can see all the results of a controlled environment. But he's genuinely invested in being like, look at what we've achieved. Look at this. Isn't this amazing?
And I mean, you see it again in the scene in the boardroom where, the lawyer's like, dude, we got to shut, like, people will pay. Like, they will pay a lot of money to go see this. And he's like, well, no, everybody in the world should have the right to see these animals.
Yep.
Like, even though he is misguided, there is a real earnestness and a good intent behind what he's doing compared to, just like the greed of the corporate side of just, well, this is going to make us so much fucking money. It's cool because the film presents, it presents like a gambit of different perspectives. There's not just the fundamentally correct and incorrect perspective. There's like the dimensions to the correctness or incorrectness of the perspectives.
He's a showman,
Yeah,
not a
even here
businessman,
when Yeah, even here he's like, say hello, and he's got his lines, and he's saying, oh, they're gonna add the music in later, and it'll be really nice and everything. He really enjoys the spectacle and making people, enjoy things, and he's pretty consistent throughout about that until the end when he's like, yeah, maybe yeah.
You know what?
Maybe this wasn't great.
Maybe it wasn't the best idea.
Well, like, even him interacting with his video self is just something he clearly put thought into, was excited to show people. Like, that alone is just like, he loves entertaining people. And it's just a really good idea to have as the creator of the park, being that was his motivation instead of just a money man, so to speak. But I'm also glad that they have the money man in it.
I hate the DNA mascot. They should have gone with a different design.
It's Gamut Fringy. Oh, you like that, huh? I bet that really blows your mind. well, now I know.
So before I give my POV on it, what's the beef with the DNA man?
I just don't like the way he's looking. First off, you'll notice that in some of these, depending on the background that the DNA character is in front of, his mouth and features can be extremely hard to distinguish because he doesn't have like a body to him that can separate him from the background. I just don't like the design here of all the little circles and stuff. I just never.
So the reason I like him so much is because I take this whole scene to be such a representative of the problem. It's such a goofy and fun, like, Mr. DNA, that's where you come. Well, to be fair, I'm talking about his design as well.
Okay.
So he's like, everything he delivers is also fun and peppy. He's a series of circles that are all different colors. He's kind of like a clown, like of a cartoon. And we're treating this all like it's a big festival, showcase, fair, fun thing, when what he's describing is literally the power of a god. Like, what they've done is insane. They can create life at will, and they can take it from like all of history, which is what I think
they could have done that with another design, but mine is just one in terms of like artistically the kind of the way that it kind of blends into the background in some of the scenes where I don't think that was intentional. Because the mouth doesn't have he doesn't have like a head, so depending on like the background, the mouth just sort of disappears. That's just all. I would just change it up to something different.
Well, it's going to be a rushed project, so you could definitely see it as having in-world reasons for why it's not as efficient as possible. You were just highlighting how he wants to reassure them it's going to look better and it's going to be better by the end.
Okay.
Oh, you sound like you're aggressively agreeing.
No, I get it. That is a reasonable thing because it is not finished. They don't even have the final music and everything. And maybe this is DNA Man, 1.0. Maybe in future they'll be like, oh, let's change the design a little bit and work on things.
Because it's impressive, but you obviously have Malcolm just getting further and further interested in staring at this thing. Like,
yeah, he leans forward and looking.
Yeah. Well, so I like it because it is the whole time he's being sort of a goofster, like he's a very chill, he's like a very chill guy. But then as he's starting to be fed, I mean, you mentioned it before, Mauler, like he comes across as he is the first and the harshest in terms of his flat rejection of the notion of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
it's like it begins here when the science actually begins and you begin to understand, like, wait, this is how it's actually sort of happening.
Yeah, which is almost disturbing when you can think about many of its applications, which is the same for all technological advancements. That's like a warning you always have. I think Crichton has written several stories that regard that specifically. So yeah, they say like the geneticists will take over where the DNA strands are incomplete from what they draw out of mosquitoes that are fossilized within amber, and then they fill in with frog DNA. Which to me, I have no idea how viable that would be in science, but to me, it stretches over into this is our sci-fi take. Like,
I'll believe it. It's not unbelievable. You could buy it.
Well, would this film be considered sci-fi?
Yeah, it's definitely science fiction. We can't make dinosaurs.
It's just
technically yes. I don't know if people
I was going to say
sci-fi.
On paper I think yes, but a lot of people associate Jurassic Park with more action adventure almost.
Well, I mean, I'd say that science fiction, action, and adventure aren't like incompatible. They're almost like different ones, right? Like if you were thinking about what types of genres exist in film, it's like you can have, like an action adventure that's a fantasy or science fiction. Yeah, I think that someone said it's too soft. I'm guessing when they're talking about like the elements of science in it. But I'm not sure if that would be because it's like soft and hard science fiction genres. I have no idea where this would sit.
Well,
we can't make dinosaurs yet. Well, yet is kind of the relevant part about science fiction compared to fantasy is there is a level of you're trying to present it as plausible to some degree rather than outright magic. even if the technology might be infeasible, or we later discover that it's impossible or something. You know, like and so I imagine Jurassic Park would surely be science fiction.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I figured that wasn't even up for debate, and I guess it's and it's partially just stems from, I guess, as well, the desire to some extent provide explanations for you know, for how it works. Is what the whole scene with them in the laboratory is or this whole sequence in general is. Okay, let's, you know, we've presented the information of dinosaurs are here. Let's make some effort to explain how it all works. And it's all relevant too, right? Because it's all like reinforcing and building up the what we see later. The main example of that would be the nature of the breeding of, like, yeah, no, all of them are female. We have the eggs here. Like, we want to control this environment. We want to we're going to control the population on this island, only to later find out that they have been breeding on the island itself. That, like, all of the efforts that they've made to try and control them have just not. It's just not working. Like, it's not working as intended. There's kind of like that vibe throughout the whole scene, of just watching what they've done with a level of awe, but just a sort of question mark above it all, like, not too sure about that. They're in the lab and they watch the new dinosaurs, you know, hatching from the eggs, and all of the scientists, like, can't help but, you know, be, like, in awe of this. Like, they love it. And particularly, like, it's just so fascinating, right? It's like the scientific interest like pulls them into it, but then, you know, it contrasts sharply with when they're in the boardroom, and even with, for how cool it all is and how much they really love witnessing it, just the need to push back that, like, this probably isn't a good idea. It's kind of, like, interesting to present, though. I guess it's more so that it comes after the Velociraptors.
Can't resist comparing. So, like, this is like roller coaster showcasing in the form of a ride their god powers, which is having obviously different reactions from different people. But by the way, very happy they included all of this. They could not have.
The desire to make it seem more like a theme park?
That and the information on how it all comes together. They could have just skipped it. They could have been like, yeah, we cracked it.
They could have, we use science stuff, you know,
yeah.
But it just helps add to its believability. It's like, yeah, this all seems like, you know, it doesn't break the bounds of reason. I could buy into this concept, and so that means, you know, makes the fact that there's dinosaurs running around in this park like a believable thing.
But, like, this to me as well, it feels so applicable to the whole, because we're going to get to his speech soon about how what he says, Malcolm, applies to our feelings about modern IP, so to speak. But this feels like Hammond is like, it's unfair because Hammond's much more, I would say, ethical than Disney in terms of, not necessarily ethical. His characteristics are much more noble in terms of what he wants is much more desirable as a trait than just to make money, so to speak.
Yeah, he wants the world to enjoy and experience dinosaurs as they were. It's just sort of a failure to realize, yeah, that's the thing, they were and they're not anymore.
So yeah, then we get a scene that's just another one that's iconic and it ends up being shown and referenced. It's actually in the thumbnail. The birth of a velociraptor. And you can't help but compare Hammond in this moment to, like, what feels like God. In terms of, like, this is a creation that I have managed to produce almost fully. And here it is. And what I love about it so much is his attitude. It's just filled with wonder and excitement.
Yeah.
It's so kind of adorable. And there's so many different tones to go through, right? If you're designing this scene, you're like, you want to capture that because that is very much in line with his character. Then by the time we hit the end of the scene, or if you remember the shot, you have Wu telling Grant it's a velociraptor, and his fucking expression, like, you bred raptors? Like, what? Like, are you insane, sort of thing? And he just looks down, and he himself is holding in his hands a velociraptor alive.
Yeah.
Like, so great.
Well, it's the contrast of, you know, at first the awe, right, for these animals, but then even for as much as, you know, the scientists, like, really are just enamored with them, it's just, you know, every now and then it's just, oh, but wait, like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, that just keeps coming back, you know?
Hammond then wants them to like go have lunch and talk about the wonders of the park, but Alan's like pushing to see the feeding and to find out as much as he can about these, and then Muldoon turning up and saying like they should be destroyed, they're lethal at age blah blah, and you know, Hammond's like he's a bit of an alarmist, you know. It's just that kind of guy. Don't worry about it. Like there's nothing to panic about. And I just like the feeding sort of straps and stuff. They get torn to shreds.
Yeah, the rustling leaves, and you're just left on all of the characters' reactions to it, but you don't get to see it because you don't need to see it. It's scarier that you don't, and you see the effect it has on the environment and the people watching. And then it lifts up and it's covered in blood and destroyed.
Which is a double whammy, right? In terms of just look at the ferocious power, but simultaneously they're not prepared properly. That is obviously not the best way to feed them if it's going to result in your technology getting destroyed every time. So this is still clearly a new process for them.
It's a level of I don't know if I'd say inefficiency, but it ain't.
This is Mark 1 feeding delivery system.
It could be Mark 3 at this point. It's just not working out.
It's just and it's something that gets mentioned, you know, later on when they're at the Tyrannosaurus enclosure, and then they just put the goat there. It's like T-Rex doesn't want to just be like fed a goat like on a slab. Right, like the animals have behavior, and the way that they treat and take care of these animals clashes very heavily with their behavior because they don't really understand their behavior. They're like animals that humans have never interacted with before. It's like the notion that you could meaningfully affect control over these animals when you barely even understand how they behave. You know, it's like bound for disaster, really.
Yeah, and because like we already have that problem with animals today. They're not taken care of well in a lot of like the worst zoos. So imagine doing it with something as the power in dinosaurs. Yeah,
exactly. I do love this scene with them talking to each other in the boardroom. It's so great.
It's really efficient. Everyone is within character, and they raise some really great and very deep thought points about how everything's going.
I just like the inversion, right? The lawyer guy, when he comes, is like, you know, the investors, they're worried, like if one thing's wrong, they're going to pull your funding. And then as soon as he sees all the dinosaurs, it's like, so this is awesome. We're going to be merchandising this. We're going to charge like $10,000 per ticket.
Seeing dollar bills.
It's flipped, right? The enthusiasm of all of the scientists. It's now, you know, it's very muted, and it's all just focused on, you probably shouldn't be doing this. And the fact that, Malcolm is the one who was like the most fervent in saying you shouldn't be doing this, when originally he had the most like lackadaisical sort of chill attitude about, you know, coming here. It's just interesting, right?
There's a reason why he's because they treat him as he's the trendy one they're bringing in to get like approval because he's probably good in his field, but this is us seeing that he's good in his field.
He is good in his field because he said it, you know, in the scene with the velociraptors hatching, you know, the life finds a way. Like the illusion of control that you think that you have here is it's ridiculous. And I think he says like the lack of respect essentially for like the powers that you're playing with here is staggering. Like it's actually offensive to him how little regard they're showing for what they're doing. And then, of course, it culminates in that classic line, you were so concerned with whether or not you could that you didn't stop to think whether or not you should.
Classic.
I love that line. It's so good.
Well, it's funny.
Another classic.
I really enjoy the line, but his speech is, which I repurposed for talking about the state of the MCU, and I think it was the Black Widow video. So he says, like, don't you see the danger? Genetic power is the most awesome power this world has ever seen, and you wield it like a kid with his dad's gun, which is something a lot of people will reference with anything going forward. It's just a really great way to explain what you're doing. Like, because children are oftentimes, they're not ill-intended with the gun necessarily, but they just run around because guns are cool toys, and it's like, that is not the respect you need. He goes on to say this power didn't require any discipline to attain it. You read what others had done, you took the next step, you didn't earn the knowledge yourselves.
On the shoulders of giants. It does hit hard, especially when you repackage it for media, for Jurassic Park.
Or Jurassic Park, the IP, You didn't have the discipline to acquire this IP. You didn't do all the work to get it to where it is. You don't even understand it.
Wow, is that not just a great representation of Jurassic World as a whole, like a whole series?
Yeah, dude, what he says, you stood on the shoulders of geniuses, being Spielberg and all of the army of amazing people that made this film. And And then to accomplish something as fast as you could, they rolled out Jurassic World as soon as they would realize they had that potential. And before you knew what you had, you patented it, packaged it, and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it.
Merchandising and all of the attempts, box office gross of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World as a franchise. Man, and you could just apply it to so many things. You could apply it to all of the franchises that have been run into the fucking dirt.
Yeah, obviously people saying Star Wars. Star Wars is a fantastic example.
Terminator, Alien,
Predator.
Yeah. All of these classics, 70s, 80s, 90s science fiction.
Why do you think it is that these franchises, obviously, I understand keeping an IP going, but why do you think IPs are? I would dare say that perhaps the Mad Max franchise, because the creator of that franchise has stuck with it. George Miller has been involved with all of them, but why is it that the incentive to make IP, to continue a franchise, is to make money, and yet they're not as good as the original, and it's a law of diminishing returns, and all we do is see these great franchises that you would think are brainers to continue. Why are they not? Why are they not done well? What is, like, Jurassic Park is not exactly the most difficult franchise in the world to understand. And yet, when it goes on, we don't get greatness in them. Whereas if you look at a franchise like the Mad Max franchise, I mean, some people, when Beyond Thunderdome came out in 85, people were disappointed by it. And I understand it wasn't the Road Warrior, because that was amazing. Mad Max 2 was amazing. However, it was, if you look at it as far as it goes and you get to Fury Road, still respected. But the Jurassic Park franchise, even after the first film, is the law of diminishing returns.
So I think they just don't really know what it is that was great about the thing that they're copying. It's like when you're looking at a great piece of art and you just sort of see what it is. It's like, oh, it's a bunch of people on a ceiling and all these guys in robes, and oh, look at that guy, but you don't really understand, underneath what the stories are about, or the effort that went into it, or the thought process behind making it. They're not copying a thing's quote unquote soul in a way. They're just the thing as it in its most superficial sense. They're trying to copy what people think
they're
of.
They're not copying the process that made it. They're copying like the results.
Yeah,
is almost there's no
they're
substance
skipping to
in
the finish line in a sense.
So yeah, the scene. I like some of the Ellie mentions here is that they've got plants for the way that they look around different parts of this area, but that one or several of them are poisonous. Presumably, if you eat them, and it's like it's another representation of how the approach to the show of it is not considered enough at all to encompass safety. And you get Malcolm, you get her, you get even the lawyer not providing the kind of support that Hammond is necessarily looking for, right? Because he's like, we're going to charge so much. And he's like, okay, fine, Alan, you're the one that can help me out here, right? You're the one that can see the value, you understand, you know what's going on. But, I just love the libraries, like, dinosaurs and man were separated by 64 million years of evolution. They've just been thrown together. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's just like only foreboding.
It's a really reasonable thing to say,
Yeah, that happens. Like, for fuck's sake, talk about the nice cool things. Here. Yeah,
you're an archaeologist, or you're a paleontologist. Throw me a bone here.
Yeah,
not bad.
He didn't say that, unfortunately, though.
He didn't, but he could have.
An excellent line.
He could.
It was on the director's cut commentary track. Yeah, they wanted to, but legal reasons.
The kids arrive and Hammond says, now let's spend a little bit of time with our target audience. It's like, yeah, because it makes sense that he wants to entertain everybody, but I imagine there's a lot of fundamental enjoyment in bringing awe to children's eyes. Gonna be the kids. I remember being one and loving dinosaurs, man. But it's funny because like just all ages, though. Dinosaurs are amazing. It is kind of like, we touched on it earlier, but it's like, why? It's like, I don't know. They like
They just are. They're big
huge-
lizards with big teeth and claws, and they lived in a savage world, where everything was wilderness far before civilization was even a thought,
They have really
It
cool
was just a
names
different
too.
world with different beasts. It's wild.
They have
Is
cool names and
dinosaur
cool
a cool
categories.
name because we think dinosaurs are cool, or was it a cool name always?
Dinosaur. It sounds pretty unique. I don't think
It
it's not like edgy to
It's
edgy or
like how
anything.
we talked about why does Sauron just sound like a villain name? It's like, I don't know, it just does, and it sounds awesome.
That's what it is. Yeah. So dinosaurs from the Greek and then the modern Latin. It means terrible lizard.
Wow.
Dinos and Sauros. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. All you Grecians can let me know. But yeah, terrible lizard.
Neat. So yeah, you have plenty of moments for Alan having trouble with the kid who's really interested in his work because he's so experienced. Like the fact that he's read his book and he's just like, okay, fine, leave me alone. And yeah, it's just funny that he's like, which car are you going into? Ushers him into another one and then just closes the door on him. It's like desperately trying to get away from kids. And you even have Ellie sending the girl to hang out with him because they all just want to have fun. But he's actually a little bit more concerned with the existential crisis of being able to create life at will, especially in the regard to these horrifying monsters, There's a little bit more going on for him. But still, it's just something of a beat they keep pushing forward in the film. And then I think they introduce, we've got the storm coming, which, on a fundamental level, for writing, some people highlight, like, aren't there a lot of coincidences? The fact that the storm is happening at the same time that Dennis is doing what he's doing at the same time that the tour's happening. I thought the tour was why Dennis had organized it to be now, because everyone's very distracted with their first ever visitors. Seems to make the most sense to me, and it also pushes it to the point where the park is getting ready for earlier launching, which means they've probably got all of their genetic stuff in the bag, which means it's stealable for Dennis. So that timing makes sense to me, but the storm is like, that's incredibly inconvenient. But once you've gotten past that, it obviously allows for a lot of extra things to happen.
It's not unreasonable, and the storm does slowly arrive. There are scenes where it's starting to rain just a little bit, and then the storm, starts coming. And we'd have to see how common storms are in that part of, if we were really going to analyze it. How common are storms in that part of the world, and it's not like they're in a desert, so it's not terrible.
Yeah, and like you said, they do actually know it's coming and they prepare for it. It's going to be alongside the sabotage from Dennis. It's going to be a big way to facilitate a lot of different payoffs. So that pushes you into the portion where things are going to start to fall apart. Significant.
Uh-oh.
Because you got, I quite like Hammond's on the little headset trying to show off everything about what they've got. They've paid like a special dude to get the voiceover in the cars. And see, that's like showcasing the park element of it, and they're all excited to see this thing that's being described, and they don't. It's like, oh, and to me, that's always been an indication that it's like, yeah, see, it's still stuff that would appeal to us, no matter what philosophy we can come up with for why this is horrifying. You just want to see the dinosaur doing dinosaur things. And what's cool as well is the one they're describing is the Dilophosaurus, I think, the one that, they're like, oh, it'll spit, venom or whatever at people, paralyze them, blind them, and then eat them without difficulty. Once again, foreshadowing for what's going to happen to an unfortunate person in this film.
That guy is eaten. That is
It would have been several meals for a
true.
Dilophosaurus. Maybe I don't know how much they need to eat. I'm not familiar enough with Dilophosaurus diets. My bad, I know. But yeah, they conclude the storm is going to be super dangerous in conjunction with everything else that's going to be happening. So it's like a warning to keep an eye on it. And at the same time, you have their computer systems are not fully operational. So another downfall of this whole system is that they're relying a lot on automation and as few people as possible, I think, which is the more explicit evidence that as much as Hammond keeps saying we spared no expense, is like he's always looking to spend whatever the amount is necessary to get the thing done, but no more. He doesn't want to like go further than that. And so from his point of view, paying Dennis and the few other workers that are even here, hopefully they can, because I think Dennis even has a line that says like, you can run everything in the park with like 3 people. because of how automated everything is.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that all falls apart with like one click of a button, and Storm's fucking with everything, and that reliance on technology allows the door to swing right open for nature to take its response. And all of that's being argued over. Dennis not being paid enough, Hammond trying to sort of justify it, and you even have Hammond with a line that I think we're supposed to think a lot about as the film goes over, but he says, "I don't blame people for their mistakes, but I do ask that they pay for them."
Paying for mistakes. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I can't help but imagine that's going to be on his mind in the last moments that we see him in the film. And yeah, they bickering gets like cut off by Muldoon, like warning them they're approaching the Tyrannosaur paddock. It's done with such a like he's so concerned to the point where you wonder if he actually thinks any of this is remotely safe. I think it's a matter of it should be, and all things point toward it being, but you don't quite know exactly what's going to happen, and that's that chaos element they keep talking about. Mauler uses that line to fire people. It was it's just not a bad line in general. Because, it's trying to acknowledge that you don't want to hold people in some kind of perpetual prison for their mistakes, but you want something to be rectified as a result.
It goes into a lot of lines here. There's a deliberateness to the script. Everything that the characters say it's all about making, setups. It's all about this will mean this later on, and this will be paid off in this way. This is not what we call an accidental script.
No. Lots of purpose. I think by here...
the more you pay attention to this movie, the better it gets, and the more foreshadowing there is on the themes and their execution.
Well, yeah, because on a surface level, it's a fun dinosaur movie. And even though it's not incredibly complicated in terms of what it's trying to achieve, it's like there's a lot of details there.
The line from Malcolm soon, where he's like, God creates dinosaurs, God destroys dinosaurs, God creates man, man destroys God, man creates dinosaurs. Which is fascinating enough to himself, and then she says, dinosaurs eat man, woman inherits the earth. And it's cool because you get him being like curious about what she's just said, and Alan's in the background.
Look over, yeah.
He's just smiling. Like, she has a couple of digs like that in the movie throughout. More characteristics going on, Oh, and this is where, you get the line from, I think Alan saying, T-Rex doesn't want to be fed, he wants to hunt.
Yeah, that's right. Just the behavior is not being recognized by the park.
Yeah, which makes me wonder as well, combined with what Muldoon knew about the raptors in a sort of insufficient way. He's delivered as someone who knows the most about raptors. I think that's what Hammond says, but I do wonder how much he really would know compared to someone like Alan Grant, who studying them in depth extensively and historically, as opposed to a hunter who's studying just their behaviors. In a very controlled environment.
There's probably a lot that they both know. How much of it's overlapping, I'm not sure.
Well,
but, together there's like the theoretical knowledge, and then the actual, like, this is what they actually do, or comparing it to what real creatures do.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is Muldoon's information is going to be so limited because you don't get to see them operate in any kind of how can you know anything about how it will work to fight against them in an open environment when that's something you could never see? And I think this is where we get an explanation from Malcolm of what he means about being a chaostician, I think is how it's described, right? Well, yeah, and the way he tries to explain it to Ellie is like, you would assume, based on information you had, what is going to happen next, but it doesn't. And then he explains, it's because of imperfections in the skin, or the way that hairs move, the dilation or distending of vessels. There's reason behind it, but it's so chaotic in terms of information that you can't have known ahead of time that you'll get results you'll never be able to predict.
That's a really good layman's interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's super, super straightforward. And then I like you got him being like, "Hey, are there any dinosaurs on this dinosaur tour?" And you just have Hammond staring at the screen, so just on that.
The wide-angle lens as well. Look at his face. It's just funny.
He's like a troll.
Breathing on it. Yeah, he's a fun character.
Bringing in some of the biggest criticisms while simultaneously being a bit of a jokester type that's just here for the ride as well. He does come across that way. He's all about them ethics, but at the same time, he'll go wherever life takes him. Like, he is the chaos element in
He
its
has
own
embraced
point of view.
chaos.
Well, yeah, that he's like, nobody could have predicted Alan would jump out of the car, and then Ellie, and then he's like, or that I'd be sitting here talking to myself. Like, yeah, it's, don't expect all this shit
It's
to
an
happen.
amusing movie.
There's plenty of little jokes that can land really well throughout this, yeah. You try and nail it all, but you have a focus, you know?
It
'cause
has no
helps.
velociraptor saying Alan.
No, that, yeah, well, you know what? That was a dream sequence, so it's okay.
Oh, okay, okay. That's
No
fair enough.
judging.
Yeah,
No
it's
judging
true.
here.
No judgment. If it's a dream, it's yeah, it's good. We're all good.
Yeah, the reason they're able to
Ending
get
all
out and
right.
even check out the Triceratops is because they don't have all these systems aren't complete. There's no locking systems on these cars yet. They've been built for magnetism to the rails, and that I assume as well is going to be an awkwardness to how the locks would be controlled. Can it be controlled from inside, or is it only from the security like control room? And if that would be even how viable is that? How in terms of you got to be careful in case the system's shut down for whatever reason, but. In any case, Muldoon says, like, we're supposed to get the locks sorted out. And it's like, haven't. Like, there you go. People are just coming off the tour at will. And, yeah, we get the Triceratops scene, which, again, to me, comes across as another attempt at trying to get the awe and incredible nature of dinosaurs before they give us the stuff a lot of people will be waiting for, which is the more aggressive dinosaurs, right? And the fear of them chasing you and stuff. It's like, there's a lot more to appreciate about them than just big spooky lizard.
The Triceratops animatronic is so great.
It's kind of incredible,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, because it moves with I don't know. I think it goes into the like both the animatronics and the CGI. They're believable not just because they look pretty good, but are really good in some instances. But they move well.
The breathing, it's the breathing that sells that animatronic.
Gives it life.
Yeah, and that's hard to do. No
doubt.
Look at that eye as well. Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so well done, and all that. There's guys and girls and people making these things work. They're in the background, doing all of that, and it's really beautifully done. I mean, Stan Winston, before he rest in peace, Stan. Before he passed away, he put together the very best of physical effects, makeup effects people in Hollywood, and Jurassic Park is a great example of what they were able to do.
It reminds me of how when the prequels came out, there was a unified complaint that there was too much reliance on CG, not enough of the practical that the OG films had. And then I remember the promotion of Force Awakens, they were like, look at all this practical stuff. I remember them, they had like one of the aliens on stage in its like full outfit, just being like, see, look at this, like it's amazing. And it's funny because you skip forward to the end of that trilogy and it's just a mess of CG. Like, it was even the respect to the idea of having practical effects was superficial. It was like, we have this because people like it, right? Like, it's never from the ground up for why you have these things or how they're built or what they do. It's just, oh, it's a good film, so it has to have special effects, I guess, that are physical or practical. And you're sitting there like, well, it's more than that, man. Like, it's not... Because I have to push back on this every once in a while. There's a lot of CG hate that's happening. It even comes from me as well, and I always want to try and refocus to be like, well, it's not... CG's amazing. And this is a film that has it in spades as examples of when to use it properly. I'm looking forward to when we get to some of the shots.
It's all about how things are employed.
Yeah.
I mean, it always comes down to the use of things.
There's several shots I want to...
a good example of that, yeah.
Sort of like go into a little bit deeper in terms of like slowing it down and stuff, because it's kind of amazing in this film how it's using CG better than like all of Phase 4.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Because I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's not even a matter of it's going to age poorly. It just looks bad now. I think that's one of the things that I've started to as more time passes between these films and the technology gets better. It's like I think. Why is it that some things age better than others? And it's like, it's got to be the way that the technology is employed, because you can have, two things come out at the same time. You look at it with a lot of video games, right? There are certain video games that age way better, and a lot of it can be attributed to art styles. Like, Wind Waker is the go-to example. That game won't age basically at all. but even games that kind of go for like a little bit more of a realistic look, it's like through really great art direction in those cases. And here it seems like it's just it is how you use the tools, not like how old it is or even how much it is. It's just how you use it.
Completely agreed. But yeah, Dennis is about to enact his plan. He's got a limited amount of time to get to the boat because the storm is going to speed up its leaving the island because it's getting dangerous. So he needs to do this now, and so he sinks it and starts grabbing the stuff. But of course, the fact is he's going to try and lower all the security so that he can not only get out, but it can cause chaos for these guys that are too busy to deal with him. I'd imagine that was all the goals. I don't think he's ever explicit about exactly why he's doing all of those things. You even have Samuel Jackson's character saying, like, why did he lower the fences? And the interesting thing to note is that he didn't lower the fences for the raptors, which is commented on. I think, is it Muldoon later says, like, not even Dennis would have done that? Because that's
yeah, when they were going to the power station. Yeah, he tells it to Ellie.
As much as it's
He says it a lot to
sabotage,
Ellie, yeah.
that's how much Dennis knows that releasing the raptors is a seriously bad idea. Yeah, and he has this moment where he's like, "I want to go to the vending machine and pick up some stuff.
Yeah.
You guys want anything?" And it's just like, man,
Absolutely. It's like, oh boy, can you look any more suspicious, dude?
yeah. And I do like that it's reasonable that he said it, but I just love, like, where is Dennis? Someone check the vending machines. Like, I think that's what Hammond says.
Yeah. Someone check the vending machines, which is weird because I just don't think he'd fit in there. But I guess you might as well look
gotta
everywhere,
look, Rag. You gotta look everywhere.
Gotta look. You might be in there.
And yeah, you have one of the few that I love back and forth between Malcolm and Alan, right? Like, have any kids? Like, oh yeah, 3. Anything that can happen will happen, or it's the Murphy's Law thing, right?
That's Murphy's Law, yeah.
So,
Which is anything that can happen will happen. Wait, what was they saying? Interstellar? Was that
they
what
said
they
anything
said?
that can go wrong will, I think.
Oh, Murphy's Law is
no,
anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Whereas what they said in Interstellar was the other one. Anything.
Right,
that
I
can
got it
happen
backwards.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Interstellar fucks up what Murphy's Law is,
Even though
which is weird considering one of the characters is
one of
named
the
after it,
characters
and
is
it's
named after it, and it's a big part of the.
Well, every
Interstellar.
time I go through that or find out about it, I always have to end up Googling some stuff because I always get mixed up on the laws as well.
Mhm.
But obviously, you don't want to get mixed up in the script. That's like, you want to make sure about that. It would be a bit awkward. Maybe that's foreshadowing for eventual coverage of Interstellar or deep dive. But yes, what Malcolm's referencing then, is that a different law or is it a variation? I'm genuinely asking because I'm not actually sure.
Which one? Sorry.
Anything at all can and does happen is what he says, I think.
anything can and does happen. I don't know what that is. Yeah,
Might be a reference to something
that
else.
ties.
Then?
Maybe it ties into chaos theory. This idea that anything could, who could have known, who could.
Well, he's
really
definitely embracing
this,
it to
the other thing. Yeah,
like the fact that he says, "I'm always on the lookout for a future ex Malcolm," being that he's just going to embrace the journey of getting married, having kids, whether or not there's the expectation of things going wrong, because he's aware of how much everything can go wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People say Murphy's Law, but again, Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So, like, there's got to be something else, right?
Yeah, whatever they say in Interstellar is not Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I remember. I don't remember the specifics, but it's one of those things that the movie does just so well.
Someone said you don't know Murphy's Law? Apparently not. Until I go reading about it on the wiki pages, because I thought it was one thing, but mixing up them laws, something I do.
No, we were right about Murphy's Law.
Oh well, I'm saying I do. I mix them up. Anyway, he do be doing the stealing bit in this moment.
You said doobie doo.
I do. I look
Did
for
you
any
know on
opportunity
Mountain
to do
Dew? On Mountain Dew bottles they used to say doobie doobie doo on them?
that. Why?
Because they sell it DEW is how they'd spell it doobie doobie doo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's stealing what looks to be like the core DNA for each of the dinosaurs, and I always remember thinking, like, man, I'm surprised they only wanted one of each. You'd think they'd want a whole, like, fill a briefcase or something. Those things will be incredibly valuable. We're talking like millions of dollars, I'd imagine.
And maybe more than millions. That might be underselling it.
It might be, yeah.
Maybe a Barbasol can. It is more under the radar than a briefcase. You know, if they're doing checks for things, you wouldn't think to check. You'd be like, okay, this is a can of Barbasol.
Pretty sure there was a line for that in the movie, that it was specifically in the can because it would be easy to get through like customs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, in that case, just you'd think they design it so they can steal some more. I don't know, I just would have thought maybe several cans of... maybe it's too suspicious to be carrying more than one can of Barbasol.
Well, I think he says you got to get one of each, probably referring to the fact this is a one-time thing. Once you steal it, the security is going to be insane, and it won't be it won't be easy or possible to, have a second go around. So you need to get the variety. That's what's important, because this is our only chance.
Someone mentioned they're embryos. I'm not actually sure. Oh wait, no, yeah, it does say embryo.
Yeah, these are embryos.
I thought maybe it was the stages even before reaching an embryo, but because of I don't know what stage of research you'd need to steal to get the guaranteed results. But supposedly that would be enough.
And I think that, like, we talk about the deliberateness of everything and a lot of the symbolism of the script, and I think that the can of Barbasol is there to represent how hairy the situation is.
Yeah. This is all because this is where the tension really starts to rise up, because you know what you're in for with a movie like this, and there's just so many red flags everywhere. All those fences going down, all the setup they've had about everything the dinosaurs do. Just like, oh, this is not going to end well. And then, of course, Dennis rushing so hard to get to the dock because of the rain and him fucking around and being so desperate, he eventually crashes and no longer knows exactly where he's supposed to be going. And then, because of everything being shut down, gates are opening and different things, he accidentally crashes into, I assume, the Dilophosaurus paddock, or a place that the Dilophosaurus has ended up in. Mr. Nedry, which actually, I don't know, do we see all of that before I think we get the T-Rex scene first. Which I feel like the whole film has been very carefully building up toward. It's building up to a lot of things, but this is one of the bigger ones. And it feels like this is the first one. In a similar way you could say about the Brachiosaur and the Triceratops, but this was the big one. It's like, we've got to nail this. This is what people are at the cinema for, sort of thing. And it will forever be referenced as a time where they absolutely bloody nailed combining CG and practical effects.
Oh my god! I mean, this movie is a masterclass in doing that.
You even have that cup with the tremors.
Oh,
a visual
so
that everyone remembers.
Well, the idea, and in theater, when you saw this when it came out, the bass, the surround sound, it came out, and I don't know, I don't want to say this is the very first DTS film, but the digital sound processing of this in theaters was amazing, because when you saw that water and you heard it was pretty incredible in the theater.
I think we've not been dealing with stuff this big before. So you get these fun ways of, because this whole scene is just build up. And everyone's gonna have lots of different favorite shots, but one of the ones I absolutely love in terms of Rags brought this up when we were watching, but something that seems to be benefiting this so much is having these animatronics actually being in the rain.
Having real water running down them does a lot of help to sell these as being real. Everything's in rain. The cars are in rain. The people are in rain. The animatronics, the puppets, they're in the rain too. So the rain, I mean, they're real. So it makes them seem like they're, really there, like they're part of the world.
Well, I have to say that at the time, part of the reason that they're in the rain is because they needed that to sell the CG. Because it wasn't there yet.
That's the thing. It sells CG and it sells the practical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all the way into 1998 when Roland Emmerich did Godzilla. Ugh. but oh man, don't get me started. But that's the reason that the scenes in New York with the faux Godzilla rampaging were in the rain, because rain was a great way to get rid of any let's call it less perfect effect shots, and it was an easy way to be able to transition between CGI, practical, and practical effects, and then just live action. The way the effects were caressed into live action, it was so well thought out.
This scene is this is a great example of basically like a hyper flex as a filmmaker. It's like a really amazing, like in a microcosm, it's an awesome tech demo, but I mean, obviously in the scene with these characters, it's so cool, like having this incredible spectacle of the T-Rex, the terror, the tension, and like it's all feels so seamless. Like it's such an amazing sequence, and it feels like it hasn't, like if you saw this in a film release today, it would just be as effective as it was, you know, back in 1993.
When we talk about there's so many different choices for special effects you can use, and today it would just everything would be done with CG for the dinosaurs in like the World franchise. I don't know if they've ever. I assume they still use some practical in some places in those movies, but I can't say I know for sure.
I legit don't know if they even do. Maybe they have practical stuff on set, but it will be like the green big foam thing, or like a tennis ball or something. Not
it'll
like
be a
this,
base,
where we have,
and then they'll put CG goo on top of it.
As opposed to what we have here, which this scene is like such a great example of jumping back and forth between practical and like CGI to where you don't even notice. Because here, like the shot with the dinosaur eating that goat, that's real.
The reason why I've got this up here is that I want to, like, as much as it's definitely a time to appreciate the use of CG, the blending of it, the animatronics themselves, the actual physical special effects, are out of this fucking world good. I've always remembered this moment, especially because it's the action of like swallowing the goat. And then it like slowly realizing like what's going on over here, sort of thing. This shit is just enough for me to be like, oh my god, is that thing actually there? Like, is that how it would look? And
it's
seriously,
that sense of being there.
Yeah, because it is there, of course, when they were filming it. And yeah, the lighting, the rain, the reflections from all of the.
Look at that shot! It's gorgeous. It's so good. Look at him there.
Yeah.
and then the fact that it integrates so well of him actually moving. And it just seems like that intercutting of almost a recognition of how much do we want to have it be like, you know, CG, to where we need to try and like ground it again with something that, you know, for absolute sure is real. And it's almost like the effect is that people don't even know which is real or not. And like when you don't know, you kind of buy into it totally. Like if you can't tell if it's real or not, it's like you're kind of already there. I'm pretty sure James Cameron's talked about that before. Like if you can get people, or I think what he said is like if you can get somebody to be like invested in this face, like honing in on their eyes or whatever, that's like enough.
Well, I mean, clearly he knows what he's talking about, considering that box office.
Well, all of these guys know how to use the tools, and I think we talked before about the intentional use of it. If you're making a film like this, where you've only got, I think someone in chat said about 5 minutes of visual effects work, it's like there was no haphazard, we'll fix it in post kind of mentality possible here, because it needed to all be very deliberately constructed to make it feasible for them to do this. Like they needed to know which shots that they were going to be making were visual effect shots and plan for it on set to make it, especially when you don't know if it's even possible. It's just that amount of precaution and care going into it. It like shows in every frame compared to Ant-Man, where it's much more broadly careless, but not careless on the part of the individuals working on each of those shots, right?
And to immediately, after seeing this incredible representation of the T-Rex, and then you have the lawyer just fucking sprinting off, terrified.
Well, yeah, we're still doing character, right? Because this is the moment where we get to see these characters jumping into action. He ran off, whereas Grant and Malcolm are gonna like jump in to
because they don't even know why he's running, because he says, "When you gotta go, you gotta go." He thinks he's going to toilet.
That's right. They haven't. And then that, which is really cool as well, of lopsided information. That can always be really great for drama when some characters know a whole bunch.
It's like, impossible not to fucking love, though. They say that, and then we pan left, they both turn, and you hear the of each of the wires just coming down, and you're like, that's the feds. It's like, what? You know, something that you'd reasonably assume is impossible is just happening now. The T-Rex is out. Right next to both of these cars. It's just out. And
And what an amazing payoff when we built up to it for an hour, that we're finally
Yeah,
here.
and not only does it's a restraint. It doesn't. You look at this and you don't think, oh, restraint, but you think about how we got here, and it's like, well, they could have splooged this all over the camera way before now and shown you everything and just been excessive with its display. But this is like a payoff in and of itself, just seeing the thing for the first time.
We talked about it with House of the Dragon, the old man walking. This is dinosaur moving from its paddock to outside of it, and it's one of the most memorable things that happens in this whole movie. I say that as if the movie isn't filled with amazing parts constantly. I guess I should say it's one of the most memorable in the whole franchise. It's a T-Rex. You used to be able to impress us with just the T-Rex existing, okay? That used to be something you could do. Not anymore.
When the reality is that you still can, just as
how you
long
use
as
it,
it's, couched within the context of a story that has characters who you like, is a big ol'. That's a good start.
Well, like I just, how long before just Jurassic Park in space and there's a dinosaur with lasers attached to a spaceship, and you're just like, yeah, why not? I guess.
If all else fails, space.
And yeah, on the topic of utilizing everything at your disposal, it would be interesting to ask initial audiences how much they thought was CG if they were told the exact seconds amount of dinosaurs on screen. Because like you have the big old animatronic practical big boy head at the top right of the car, and it's just like, yeah, there he is, looking creepy as fuck. Camera pushes in, and the CG one takes over. Such a good idea, such a creative idea. You see the very real practical effect, and that will it's just gonna have the natural effect of your brain believing that thing is that. And when you see the CG one, it can help blend it in your mind. I would say, you see them together almost.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's the continuity is not broken, so there's no reason for you to assume that anything else has been broken, like the practical nature of the T-Rex.
The rain, the darkness, and then keep switching from those different shots. And man, what an awesome animatronic that you put the light on it, and then the pupil changes,
dilates.
Yeah. It's such a cool detail. It just adds to helping you believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the little details, the little touches that breathe life into it. Like before, talking about the Triceratops breathing, those little sort of, it's just the tiny details.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, look at that.
The
and then it starts killing you
with the light. Yeah.
Well, no, I guess it's one of them, a little bit of trivia for you moments, because I've heard it said a couple of times, but Rags, you were mentioning it last night. He starts pushing in on the car from the ceiling, and then the glass itself comes through. And were you saying, do you know it like as a sort of established thing that was not deliberate necessarily?
I've heard that it wasn't supposed to go through and push the glass down from the top. I've heard that didn't that just sort of happened. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've heard. So
really?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd have to check.
If anything, it's certainly.
It's just awesome if true.
Yeah, it's one of those. Oh, this happened to have happened. Oh, good. The children are actually terrified. Excellent. That'll be great for our movie.
Yeah, it's because improvisation, utilizing accidents is another part of. I was going to say filmmaking, but I mean the creative process in all. Once Alan and Malcolm realize what's happening, they both have pretty big moments of like, we're going to save these kids. We got to obviously the complete in comparison with the lawyer. I almost say that as if it's to imply lawyers don't care about kids. Of course, no. It's just
of course, no, they don't. We all know that they
don't. But yeah, Alan nails it. He distracts it with the flare and tosses it. It starts heading toward it. That gives you the opportunity. That Malcolm, looking to help, is like, "Yeah, I got the flare too. Hey!" And he's just like, "No, freeze! Like, what are you doing?" Then he starts getting chased by it. And of course, Malcolm, just trying to save his own life, heads in a direction, gets hit over, covered in a bunch of debris from the building falling apart, which reveals Lawyer Man to the T-Rex. His efforts to hide from it basically guaranteed his death. And this is another.
Before we go too far, unless I blank, do we talk about like the mud underneath the car?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Rags, because something that I was reminded of while watching this film is, man, we've lost just like the grit and like
grime,
people getting hurt, people getting dirty, Like everything is too
Yeah, everything's super
pristine
safe and sterile.
Everyone's
Don't
got
worry,
their
we'll CGI
makeup
the mud on you.
Everyone's nice
Oh
hair is
my
always
God.
ready. Everybody's got their lovely Hollywood faces, and this is like, because I think the mud serves a number of purposes. It does what Frankie had mentioned. It is like it's muddy, it's dirty, it's gritty. This is not a clean, sterile place, but the way that the car is flipped over and is spun around, and the weight of the T-Rex pushing down on it into the mud, it's just another one of those elements of selling to you that the T-Rex is real. Because even though it's not in like these shots here, you know that this thing is being pressed down by this essentially monster on top
my
of
God,
it, and
you're
the mud
so
is
right.
seeping in.
It's the
Because it's how
it's
the environment
effect.
reacts to these things and how the people react to these things helps you believe it. And I think it's in no small part, it's one of the biggest things that you could do to make sure everyone's reacting to it realistically.
Also, the feeling
how
of
does
Park your
React
shuttlecraft
to
in my
anything
shuttle
bad,
bay.
man.
That's all I can say.
the feeling of being trapped too.
Yeah.
The absolute horror. You don't want to get out of the safety of the car. It's like you got to get out of the safety of the car.
The car is not safe for very long. You know?
No.
The car is not, rated for T-Rex attacks.
No.
It is.
Well, and that's, I mean, I can't help but look into that, right? One of the first things the T-Rex does is just fucking crush this car. A big representative of one of the coolest sort of technological achievements of human creation.
Well, it fucks up with it. It like pulls the muffler or whatever it is off the bottom. It rips a tire off. It's like, yeah, an animal would, I guess, fuck around with this weird thing in front of it.
Yeah, it's like, is there any part of you that's
what it would
tasty?
do.
It's like, nope. I don't know what this is.
What's this
Like,
thing?
it's almost like you're saying binding it into the world with physics around it as well as the
It's
way
so
it looks.
important.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
So important, especially because they probably have a real foot that they're showing pressing down on the car, and when they move I don't know how they do it. I think they have something that flips and moves around the car, and so the car is real and its movements are real, and then they have the CG dinosaur, looking as if it's causing those motions on top of it.
That might be why it works.
It's that blend of whatever they're using, they blend it together really well.
Well, what better way to make a CGI thing seem real than to have it actually interacting with a real thing?
Like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? When you have cartoon characters who are carrying around real objects, and they go through the trouble of having cutouts in the floor and things hanging from the ceiling so that people make the movements of the real objects so that afterwards the animators can come in and animate creatures carrying these actual real objects. And it allows for a seamless transition of an object being handed from a toon to a real person who can then take that real object and continue to interact with it.
So true.
They don't do that shit anymore.
Probably worth mentioning too, because so many aspects of why it's believable. The sounds the T-Rex makes.
The sound.
What an iconic roar the T-Rex
has. It ruined the sounds of dinosaurs in the same way that Elijah Wood ruined the look of Frodo in a way. Like, can you imagine these things sounding any other way now?
Yeah, and so it could be like, that's not how they would sound. It's like, don't care.
I don't care. That's how they sound in my heart.
That's how they sound, man. Come on. Come on,
it's
dude.
Fucking brilliant. And I've heard, don't know if it's true, that it was a mix of crocodile and lion to make the T-Rex roar.
Really?
That's what I remember reading it somewhere.
That's cool.
Don't know. Yeah, I can't say for sure. I should probably check, but
I got some news here. The strange bark-like sounds that the film's raptors use to communicate is actually the sound of tortoises having sex.
Oh my God. Really?
That's according to this article here. Let's see. This guy, who's Rydstrom? This is the film's sound designer, Gary Rydstrom, spent months recording and fine-tuning the dinosaur noises. He said if he knew where the sounds in Jurassic Park came from, it'd be rated R. The barking velociraptors are the sounds of tortoises mating. The Gallimimus stampede, the high-pitched squawking sounds those little guys make are terrifying. They're actually the sound of a female horse squealing at a male horse when he got a little too close and she got excited.
It's interesting, like with Jurassic Park, how when you like watch the film again and you just remember so many of the things that this film did that are just persistently referenced, both in ways that are obviously more overt nods to it and borrowing or leveraging some of the things like the vibrating water. Right, that's become a thing in so many movies at this point. Of like, if you focus in on water vibrating because of loud thuds and everything on the ground.
As it's fucking around with Grant and the kid, it pushes them off the side into that pit I was talking about. Which, like I said, logistically speaking, not sure if it's supposed to be there or not. Need to check. But it makes.
I didn't even register that first time. Like when I.
It's particularly this shot that makes you think, like, wait a minute, like.
Yeah. Huh.
Like, how far does this pit go? And it's like, I don't see how the T-Rex got up. How did this? Because even from this angle, the fact that it levels out to the same level, like a little bit further on, it's like, man, that's gonna be a steep sort of drop, isn't it?
You wonder if there's like a hill, like
a
this,
very steep hill, I guess.
Yeah, a hill to the left, someplace where it can. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing.
Yeah, like I said, I have to look into it, but.
Yeah,
they start rappelling down on one of the broken wires, and the kid is still in the car, and he's going to end up in the tree because the T-Rex is just continuously pushing it, I guess, looking for a chance at his food.
It's hyper stressful, isn't it? Because it's so much that Grant just cannot account for.
No.
Like, all of this crazy stuff, and he's on his own having to deal with it, and how can he? It's a T-Rex.
Well, that's the thing. 2 of the adults are knocked out so quickly. Like, one's eaten, one's... knocked out.
Yeah.
And
he's all on his lonesome.
Yeah, at this point, it's a disaster, and it's only going to get worse. But something I quite like is Hammond being like, Robert, I wonder if perhaps you could take one of the gas jeeps and bring back my grandchildren. It's such a, like, strong and stern way of what is actually happening subtextually, which is, good God, please save my children.
Yeah.
Like my grandchildren. And Muldoon is just like, yeah. Because
of course. He jumps right in.
Yeah, of course I'm the one that's going to do that. That makes the most sense.
Yeah, none of these characters are just the asshole that we can see die later that I think a lot of other films would do. It's like, oh, this guy's just the jerk. We can have him get eaten and people will like
Oh, by the way, how refreshing is it of a character saying, I'm going with you, and they're not like, no, you're staying here. And they're like, no, I'm going.
I can do this all on my own.
I'm doing that. It's just you accept, yeah, like, I am coming with you. It's like, yep, all right, let's go.
She's probably like, yeah, please come with me. I'm actually kind of fucking terrified. It would be nice to have you come with me.
It's downright refreshing to have that, which is funny, considering that a lot of films afterward are doing that bullshit of like, no, you're staying here, all right?
Well, that's there was another line that prompted me to say something very similar. It was later on when it was in this room when Sam Neill and Laura Dern, I forget their character names, escape me, but they're at the door. The Velociraptor's trying to push in the door, and the shotgun has fallen down. And Ellie, she says frantically as they're trying to keep the door shut, she says, I can't get the shotgun without leaving the door. And I'm like, it makes sense that you'd yell that to him because he might not necessarily know that. And it's a frantic, panicking situation. And you just want to make that really clear to him so that he understands what's happening in this frantic moment.
Something that, because it happens with the car, which comes shortly after.
It's a rifle. No, wait. No, it is not a rifle. It's a Spaz 12 shotgun.
Yeah.
It's a classic Italian model. It's not a rifle.
What I was going to say was something that, like, you look at a lot of the really stressful situations that occur in the film, especially parts where it's like real close. You know how films like to cut it real close in terms of big dramatic moments, and often how frustrating it is when characters are saved by an inconvenience. This film has a lot of instances that are inconvenient for the characters in terms of timing and what's happening, and where situations get worse because of very understandable, honest mistakes. Like when with the car, when Grant like accidentally, like when he moves the steering wheel and then it redirects the tire to where it loosens its grip on the tree. It's like a nice, understandable.
Well, it's because they knew. Presumably, they knew when filming it. It's like it's going to be annoying if we just have him take the kid out of the car and then for some reason the car falls when there's less weight. It's like, no, if we can find a way to make something happen, and I appreciate the fact that he just instinctually grabs onto a thing that's there, which is the wheel, and then it turns. And he's like, "Ah, fuck!" And then those wheels turning fucks up its leverage on the tree branches. Which is good stuff.
Yeah, creates drama, and it's not some bullshit. Like, it's a really honest sort of error, as opposed to characters being stupid. because nobody in this film is dumb, right? People are making the best decisions they can in difficult situations.
I find to be a lot of understandable, right? Because we were about to talk about Dennis's death scene. And
Yeah.
the one thing, I said this while watching Rags, the one thing I never fully understood in this movie is the slip sound effect he has. It goes, like
we noticed that.
It's cartoony.
That was so weird.
Of all the things, you know, you just like, because there's not many of them in the film at all. There's just this one
I wish
moment.
the audience could hear it. It's
I can play
there's
it.
like legitimately like a slapstick whoop when he slips. That's so bizarre. It stands out from an otherwise very serious film.
Yeah, I'll try and get it up. And oh, here we go. Okay, hopefully this comes out. It's actually kind of quiet, but you can hear it. Like definitely a cartoon sort of thing.
Hearing it again.
Is it an Easter egg? I'm really not sure.
I don't think it's an Easter. Maybe it was used. Yeah, maybe it's in another Steven Spielberg movie, and this was the. It's just hearing it again is like, what are you doing in this film?
I've seen two people say that's the cable.
No.
Would a cable make that sound?
No, maybe it gets pulled back in. Are you sure?
Or when it gets yanked out, right? Because that's what he's doing. He's holding onto it.
Like as it's getting like rewound, it's making that noise.
I don't understand. Like I always thought it was not in universe.
Just
you know.
Oh right, like a non-diegetic sound.
I didn't think it was. I mean, I guess it could be because someone else is saying it's the Dilophosaurus, right? Like in the background, it's like I don't know about that either.
I don't think it would be that.
It's always come across to me as just to be like, oh, there he goes.
There he goes, tumbling down the hill.
Yeah, because if it was the wire, then the re-winching sound wouldn't happen until after like he lets go or something. But he has it here in his hands, doesn't he? So
well,
it's
that's
extended,
what I'm saying.
if
Maybe
anything.
It's out of him holding onto it as he fell, but then
Well, if he lets go, is it drawing back
I think
in?
it's
And that's
a slapstick
kind of
slip sound.
That's what it seems to me. I just don't. That doesn't feel quite right as the cable sound. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you.
Very quick too. It's not like a. It's a.
Right.
I'll Google what the sound actually was. I'll look up the sound guy and he can tell me what it really was. If it was like his chihuahua passing gas or something and he put it in the film.
This very specific thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if I suppose if it was supposed to be the cable, then fair enough. But I've always thought it was like a cartoon slip sound.
Someone said it was foreshadowing for his part in Space Jam.
Oh yeah, because Space Jam would have come after this. He was, yes.
He gets flattened in that and then reinflated.
Yeah.
It's a very normal movie. We should check it out sometime on EFAP movies.
Are you gonna make us watch the remake?
The
sequel?
Yeah, the requel maybe.
Well,
but yes, of course.
We'll watch one. Gotta watch the other.
All right.
So we got us him gradually working to get his car free of the wreckage of this Dilophosaurus, just playing with its food for a while, seemingly, or trying to assess its potential danger. Obviously, because it wouldn't know what to do.
Like sizing it up. Like I don't know. Like you're a big, strange-looking creature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're brightly colored. You are not really afraid of me, but I can't quite tell. Yeah, it's like the dog in The Last of Us. You know.
What makes you wonder if
you don't know what he's thinking.
If he took the jacket off and like waved it around in front of him, maybe it would scare it off. I don't know, but he doesn't take it seriously. He's like, it'll be. I don't have any food. I got nothing on me. Leave me alone, sort of thing. Even tries to play fetch with it, which I think is very much a signal that he's underestimating it significantly. Because yeah, it's this scene goes a little scary, a little fast. The whole like the visual of it like spreading its I don't even know what body part thing they're called, but pretty creepy. And then he gets
neck flap thingies.
Gets hit enough with this stuff, and earlier they did say it can blind and paralyze. So making his way into the car is the Dilophosaurus is already in there before he gets in as well, so it just eats him in the car presumably. And I just love the shot where it pans down.
Yep.
We see the Barbasol can just getting buried by mud.
All of that all of that scientific progress, all of that engineering, all of that technology and human innovation, and ultimately it's just back in the mud.
Sort of, we were able to skip a couple of things. We've talked about some of these things, but the wheel, the turning, the breaching of the branches, and they've literally got like a... There's something to be drawn out of this, right? Like a car crashing through a tree that's potentially going to kill them. It's like the tree is the only thing separating them from death right now.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
this
so.
climbing down through.
I mean, these are just cool. They're cool set pieces, really. They're just like really tension filled, and then they ratchet up dramatically at points. Like it's this film knows how to sort of build up that tension in any given scene, and then bring it to a really satisfying payoff. Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah. Because well, first up to what you were saying, right? It's like a lot of the suspense and tension and conflict in this movie. It's very small scale and believable. It's a guy and a boy, and they're just climbing away from a car, and it's a fairly extended sequence. It's not super fast. You have a lot of time to build up tension. You have a lot of time to sort of just be aware of what's happening. It's not like part 3 in a series of 10 crazy, wacky things that are just total madness, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. You just have time to breathe in this movie, and there's this this kind of dread in the air of what bad things can happen.
Speaking of, next scene we have Ellie and Muldoon have reached this main area where it's broken out, and they managed to find Malcolm, who thought it was interesting that she notes about him that he's put a tourniquet on his leg, like with his own belt.
Yep.
And he's just gone back to just lying there, I think, which is... So
I'd do. I wouldn't move a fucking muscle. I'd just lay there.
Well, imagine being him, like, after everything he said, and now this has happened. It's just like, what a fucking joke. Like, why is this happening?
This is not fun.
No.
But yeah, he's got the belt on and
Remind me to thank John for a lovely weekend. Yeah, and then...
a lot of funny things to say.
When she says, can we chance moving him? And he says, please chance it. Because they hear the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already had the cup with the water sort of footstep stuff. But
now it's the footstep with the footstep.
That's what I mean. It's like, hey, they
footprint.
managed to up it aesthetically, which is really cool. And
yeah, no, it's neat.
And seeing him reflected in it as well. It's he's just terrified, and it really helps to sell the horror portions of this. So I saw a couple people fighting over what exactly this qualifies genre-wise. It's like, well, I guess it is a couple moving in and around all of each other. Like, people were trying to argue back and forth whether it qualifies as sci-fi. It's like, it probably should. It's just how significant... Because of what people think in their heads about what you'd expect from a sci-fi versus a horror versus a action-adventure versus a thriller. I don't know if you could count portions of this as thriller, but, it doesn't really matter that much. It's more so just about how these things show up
all
here.
This highlights is genre. We can just move past it and talk about what's happening in the film.
But yeah, Malcolm being laid down in the back
overboard.
As they're driving, right? And it's just like all you could do is basically be a free meal for it while you're sitting there. Yeah. So it's just terrifying for him. Getting those screams and stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's just a T-Rex chasing them. I say that whenever I say that, you might think like, wait, what do you mean? I mean, oh, sorry, I mean in reference to like where it is now. Like, if you remember promoting Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, I think they kept talking about how they have a record-breaking amount of dinosaurs in the films. It's like, okay,
I don't care.
Yeah, like what? It's like this one has the most dinosaurs. You're like, okay, you can do way more with less, guys. It's a commonality with these sorts of things.
Well, it's one of those euphemisms that is said, but nobody ever listens to it.
Yeah,
ever.
Less is more. It's like, yes, but less can be more, and more is more. More is more.
But more is more. Exactly. That's right.
And yeah, Alan is just like, fuck it, we'll stay up in this tree. It seems safe enough. And they get to marvel at the Brachiosaurus having some fun in a big old herd. I don't even know, would this be their paddock, or are they free? What is...
I don't know actually, but I presume that they're just roaming about the place.
Well, I was going to say,
I'm not
they
sure.
must spend the majority of their time just eating, right? To sustain a body like that?
Well,
I think
herbivores,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what herbivores often do. Like
They're
cows
just
spend
eating
most of their day
all the
eating.
time.
I do love these sharp contrasts of terror and beauty, though, throughout the film.
Oh,
You just
yeah.
had that insane encounter with the T-Rex to then be contrasted against this just beautiful moment. Just nature, just observing nature. Even though it's, probably shouldn't be in existence like this, there's still something beautiful about it.
Does it not feel a little like we've flipped in terms of the beginning was all about the majesty and amazingness of everything, and then they like inject the characters talk about the horror element of it almost, the you don't understand what you've done sort of thing. Now we're like exclusively in the horror section of the experience, and we're pulling some nice, beautiful things out while we can. It's like a flip.
It keeps oscillating, yeah. It keeps oscillating between this is horrifying, but still, this is really cool, isn't it? But this is terrible. Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
ain't it neat? It's almost like it's on a meta level and it's reflected in the characters. But it's great for pacing as well after what was a pretty lengthy, high intensity scene to just bring it back a little bit,
Well, and to have Alan chilling out with the kids, and they're even telling jokes and asking him for like reassurance, about their safety. And it's just like, look at you go, mate. You're almost a dad.
Yeah, naturally thrust into that role.
He's doing a great job. Meanwhile,
He's doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Yeah.
well, yeah, it's such a horrifying scenario, and you got to keep it together for the sake of them. That's the job he has right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The scene. I love the scene with Hammond and Ellie coming out now, and
yeah,
I love as well the panning over all the imagery of the merchandising that's already begun for this park, and we haven't even launched yet. Like, of course, that's how it works. It's just a reminder of.
Those are very 90s water bottles.
Yes, and I want to appreciate the columns in this room that have little fossils in them. I imagine not real ones, just the fun aesthetic. And yeah, with the fact they didn't find the kids, he's talking about how I'm sure they're fine because they're with Alan, and he's the best person to be with.
Dinosaur expert.
And he tells us about a little bit of his history to give you a really strong understanding of Hammond as a whole, right? That when he came down from Scotland, he he ran a flea circus, and he's describing like all of the amazing elements sort of thing. But that from his point of view, it's obviously all fake. The best you can do is temporarily convince people or even just sort of amuse them at the idea. And that he always wanted something more real, something that was you could reach out and touch, something that was actually there. And I really appreciate that that's like his big goal, and he can finally offer the world that. But then her coming back with like, all of this is still fake. You've not actually appreciated what these things are. Or I can't remember who I first heard this from, so I remember it just being an idea. But the Hammond wants to show the world something real, something that's in its like originality. It's not like a joke or an illusion or anything. But he simultaneously doesn't want the animals to be bound by their nature. He wants them to conform to what he needs. Not about
it's you understand the track that gets him to this point, because in a sense it's very understandable. Like it's kind of a misguided appreciation for dinosaurs. I think I mentioned it earlier, like when people are like, yeah, I want to pet that wild animal. It's like, yeah, I get that there's some earnestness there, but true respect for the animal is to like observe from a distance, leave it be. And in this case, it's like a reverence for dinosaurs means accepting that they don't exist anymore and to observe them from a distance, or at the very least, if they were going to exist, not to like have them bound by the rules of a theme park.
And yeah, just the desperate pleading with him that he's never really moved on from that flea circus. It's all insane to think that you can create this place the way that you envisioned without having insane repercussions in all manners that they've covered throughout this film. And yeah, and then it comes down to a fundamental that Ellie's just like, we got to save the people we love. We got to get them.
Yeah, like it just focuses in on what matters right now.
Yeah, it's there's just so much to be considering, but ultimately what matters the most is like, well, we got to get him to safety. That's the actual thing. Fuck the park. And but it's just obviously that's what is on his mind, is that this crazy experiment that he spent so much time and all of his life almost led to, it's completely fallen apart.
Exactly. Yeah, and it takes a little while for that to sink in. It eventually does, but it's understandable that it takes a while.
Yeah. And he's eating all the ice cream so that it doesn't go so much to waste because of all the power fuckery, and the freezer will have melted a lot of the ice, so to speak. It's a little bit of a clue as to what will be useful for other characters later.
Mm.
And then a dinosaur sneezes on the girl, and it's funny. Like the Brachiosaurus is super cool and nice and friendly, and then it gives you a bit of reality. Okay, snot comes with these things. They have noses.
It's not yeah. It's a few million years behind on social decorum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is a bit mean.
I'm not sure that he did it on purpose, though.
No,
Well,
he did.
He did. Did he or did he not? We gotta figure this out. Nice and gross. But anyway, Alan finds a bunch of broken eggs. So it looks as if they've found a way.
Or they made an omelet.
Either.
Oh, those must be expensive. A dinosaur omelet.
That seems like just yet another, piece of information relating to the illusion of control that they had here. Yeah, we control their breeding. No, you don't. And you didn't even know.
It's it's kind of funny. I would even cite the Jurassic World Evolution game that I've played quite a few times. It's all, everything you do to make the park function, it's all like, it's just what Ellie said. It's all like you're pretending as though you really have control when you really don't. Everything you do is an attempt to maintain like this long line of just trying to make everything function the way you want, but everything keeps going wrong, everything moves different ways, because ultimately that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it exactly the way you want it, but simultaneously for it to be itself. It's completely incompatible. And it's just tough to sort of learn fully. Because of course, if we had hyper technology with intense, thick steel on every single cage and like a really good way to view it all, it's like you can definitely get it to that point. But you're going to be. It reminds me of all that stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen. I think it's called Blackfish, the documentary about the worst of what's happened to like orcas throughout the world. Like you can get it so that you fully control them, but then you don't get them, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Like at some point you're changing it so much that you've lost what it was that you were trying to retain.
A lot of ships sank until we learned how to sail. That's probably a way to put this. Like it's kind of how things can go. Yeah, so their plan is to they need to reset the system fully to get everything back online from when Nedry took it offline, because they can't deal with his, like, I think they say there's 2 billion lines of code they need to sift through to find what he's done. And so instead, if you just reset the system, it'll all wake back up. But to do that, turns everything off and then everything back on, and it triggers the trip switch in their generator, which means that they've got to trip that back before they can get everything back on. And that, of course, if you've been paying attention, means the raptor gates are down.
Yep.
I thought when you said Raptor Gate, I was like, there was some scandal happening involving the Velociraptors. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, right, of course.
Yeah, they bump into Gallimimus. They even highlight that like they might do this kind of activity when being hunted, I think.
Yeah, yep.
That it's like, like, then you might have a bit of concern. But to be fair, they seem to feel, at least Alan does, pretty safe. Because I guess the T-Rex is going to be much more invested in killing them than the Gallimimus than them.
Well, yeah, what food source is preferable? Little people or...
It's always bugged me in movies, yeah. Like, you have food right there. Why are you chasing some random things that are tinier and running away? It's like, you have food right here to eat.
Especially when animals... There was a real evolutionary incentive to minimize how much energy you're using to do this. You can't be expending too much effort.
Bet you'll never look at birds the same way again. Maybe that's something they were hoping to achieve. Like, you'll always be scared of water with Jaws, now you'd be scared of birds, because they're kind of like this big spooky T-Rex, huh? Like,
They're just going to open up Bird Park next. You've seen
she
Jurassic
wants to
Park.
hunt.
Now, Bird Park.
And yeah, so there's this moment where Samuel Jackson's gone to go and sort out the trip switch, and he hasn't come back in time. So now they're worried about where he is, and it's kind of weird because he's killed. And I think that's more than acceptable. It is the I guess we'll get there, that I find to be absolutely hilarious.
Arm's a bit silly, yeah.
So anyway, Ellie suggests that they go and do the trip switch themselves, and Muldoon this time is the one that says, "I'll go with you." Kind of cool. They've made a good team before, right? And yeah, you got Hammond and Malcolm are gonna try and guide them where they need to go to sort out the trip switch. Kind of makes you think, fuck it, should have probably gone with Arnold when he went, right? I guess they figured it was safe.
Potentially, I guess they thought he'd be able to do it. But, well.
And yeah, there's this moment where Hammond offers that he should go instead of Ellie, and the implication being because he's the man, she's a woman. And she says, we'll talk about sexism in survival situations when I get back. And I just thought that was like, it's like, well, give the guy some credit. He's basically offering
he's trying to be, chivalrous.
Because it's obviously the better choice that you go than him, but he's still trying to offer it as like a sort of, I want to look after those women's when you're in specific circumstances. You basically should just be like, I appreciate that, but no way you're going to be able to outrun a velociraptor or even have a chance, But yeah, it's something that I guess I appreciate the fact they threw it in for Hammond, that he would offer it. Because that's the thing, he's not some asshole. He's a really nice, friendly dude who just wants people to be happy and stuff. It's because the lawyer, he doesn't get to stay in the film for very long, but you wouldn't catch him doing any of this stuff. He would just be cowering in like a closet or whatever.
Yeah, and then she'd save him.
I would save him. Wait, cowering a closet? I didn't mean to imply he's gay.
He should be bravely in a closet, proudly.
But yeah, it's kind of cool. You have this moment of them just walking towards the destination. Cabra sees Ellie, and then we pan over to Muldoon, and he's fucking frozen and sweating. And it's just like,
yeah,
you okay? And he's like, no, we're being hunted. Yeah. It's like, oh. Yeah, and he basically just tells her very calmly to fucking run. Get into that generator building now. It's alright. Run. Just run.
Get going. I'll stay out here and
be a Chad.
Deal with these velociraptors.
Yeah, that seems to be the angle. Hopefully she can do it. And yeah, I guess Arnold went in there and a velociraptor followed him, and that's what we would expect to have happened to make sense of that.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, around about the time they're planning on redoing these fences, our group of Alan and the two kids are getting out of the paddock they were trapped in, I guess.
Yeah,
which means crossing over the
electric fences are currently not operational. Though I like how he checks. Don't check by touching it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Something at it. That would be wise.
You don't check to see if a gun's loaded by pointing it at yourself and pulling the trigger.
Yes, you do. That's perfectly normal.
This bit of levity here as well.
Yeah, it's such a prick move, but it's funny. That's not funny. That was great.
Shows how the difference in the kids and how they react to,
Yeah.
He finds it funny, which is the correct.
And it's also
I also really appreciate him trying to pry open the little gaps to see if they can get through, which would be, your natural kind of first attempt is to see, can we fit through here? It then shows gaps that are clearly large enough for the children to go through.
Yeah, the ones he was playing with, I don't even think a child could get through, but unfortunately the ones that are clear, there's some big ones. Yeah.
The ones at the bottom, they can clearly get through. And he says, you two go through here, I'll go up and over.
Yeah, which would have solved their incoming issue.
Yes. They can fit through there, yeah.
Wait, someone said Alan knew the cable was safe because it was in the middle.
Because it was in the middle? I don't know what they mean by that.
I thought that this whole thing was wired up. Like, touch any part of
that's
it
why he
and
looks at the-
electrocute you.
Well, yeah, that's why he looks at the lights.
Yeah, I thought that.
And even then, I have.
He knew it was off because of the test with the stick, and then. Yeah, I would imagine the one he touches is normally going to electrocute you.
Yeah, and plus the sign, the danger sign is right there.
Fuck, that's an ancient meme. I'm sorry.
What? Oh, what are we? Oh, what are we
Alan
missing?
with the middle is Alan. Alan.
Alan.
I know that it wasn't even the
Mihai Chick
Velociraptor
sent
Alan.
Mihai
There's so many
thing?
Alan. I think so. The biggest fan. They liked the middle the most, right? Oh man.
Oh, middle is that? I remember Mihai Cheek sent Mihai.
I remember
and
that.
how he says, the middle is we don't want things to end. Alan in the middle.
Yeah, because it was something about Game of Thrones. Like the reason Game of Thrones was bad was because we all love the middle. We want the middle to go on forever. We don't want an end.
Yeah, we don't want an ending.
Absolutely wrong. But like how stories work.
Oh man, that is an ancient meme. How far back was that? That's EFAP like. Oh, that was the What was that? That was the Wisecrack.
I think it was Wisecrack. It's making me because for some reason I'm connecting to this is my favorite part. I don't know if that was the same video. I love that meme too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's talking about the that was Randy the Goblin.
Yeah, Randy the Goblin.
He wanted his gold ingots.
Jesus Christ.
Because we covered Wisecrack talking about the Disney things, the Disney ruining culture.
I'm
that
right
was
nostalgic
the one where,
right now for these things.
Wisecrack on Game of Thrones having a chat with I think it was 46.
Damn, that is an old.
Was that 46?
Joe and Honey.
I think
I remember Joe and Honey.
That was Joe and Honey. I love gold. I love honey.
Oh no, I'm in Honey.
Oh God.
But
oh wow.
There was several animations made in relation
Oh yeah,
to
it was
Joe
the
and
Walking
Honey.
Dead mobile game.
Yes.
It was the Walking Dead mobile game is what it was. Yeah.
Gold.
Oh yeah, I'm going to this EFAP 46.
Oh, good times.
Wow, that was 3 years ago or so.
So
that is a on point meme reference.
She reaches the switches, and this is particularly intense now because we know. I love this camera pan, by the way. It's so cool. But as we know, they are not off the fence yet, and they do believe they are safe. And then when she starts charging it up to turn it on, something that's really worth pointing out as an appreciation, a lot of writers wouldn't have done this, is having it so that there's a warning light first to let people know these things are turning on. It's like, hey, that sounds like a reasonable thing that a writer would happily leave out because it will cause issues in terms of raising the tension. But you managed to implement it well enough here that they know it and they now have to descend quickly. You can't just jump off. But the thing is, he's not fast enough. He just ain't, and he's getting all spooked. So it's getting real close, and he actually gets zapparoonied. And it would make me wonder, I don't think there's ever any overt reference to exactly how many volts are traveling through those things, but...
didn't it say 10,000?
On the warning sign, it says 10,000.
Oh, in that case, I guess, what happens to a human when they're hit by 10,000 volts?
What's interesting is that as I go into Google and type in, can 10,000 volts, it autofills as, can 10,000 volts kill Jurassic Park?
Kill Jurassic Park?
You see, the electric fences required at least 10,000 volts of voltage to contain the dinosaurs properly. This is an assumption, as mention is made about whether or not direct current or alternating current was used. Also, it should be noted that it is in fact amperage, not voltage, that can lead to death by electrocution. Let's see. It's possible for something to have 10,000 volts behind it and be relatively harmless. It can be life-threatening under certain circumstances. And sure enough, here we go. Would Tim from Jurassic Park really have survived the shock? Let's see. It's difference in voltage, which creates large... That's thing. Yeah, I think it's okay that he survives this. I don't know about him flying back, though, but ultimately that...
He does get caught, and obviously people are referencing, it's like, well, his heart does stop. And it's like, no, yeah, of course. I was just curious if that's unusual compared to just dying. I wonder if it was just an insta-kill for people or not.
It says, if your body is only touching the fence wires, you wouldn't even feel it, at least not the sustained current. Because I guess it's like if you're being grounded or not, or why birds can land on, power lines and not, get exploded. The cables are lashed together with thinner metal wires. They're conductive, but while they're thinner, they have much higher resistance per foot. Carry on. I will look and see.
No problem. Well, someone in chat said voltage is the transport, amperage is the payload. So these are not things I'm aware of, so I have to do some Googling, Wikiing. But we've now got the Muldoon scene, and it is incredibly tense. I believe this man fully believes that he is completely matched here, and that he has to be careful with every single step, but that he wasn't aware of hunting patterns for velociraptors when they are together. Or at the very least, it caught him off guard. And the clever girl thing is just perfect meme format. And I think they have a puppet on him, right? Animatronic potential, eating him, quote unquote. But they put like leaves and stuff in place so that it can just... The confusion of what we're seeing is good enough with his screams, basically. And I love the shot of the other Velociraptor just watching. Brilliant.
Yeah, nice and ominous.
So he's out. Even when being careful, you can still fail. Very true.
That's right. And he was very close. He got a shot off, but it missed. So it was very close. By the way, this says here, what happens if Tim is shocked and receives the injuries that are shown in the film? Okay, now he's almost certainly dead because his heart apparently stopped. We'll give Grant the benefit of the doubt here and assume that he wouldn't give a small child who you might already have broken ribs from the fall he just sustained chest compressions unnecessarily. Unfortunately, people who need CPR generally don't just go back to normal in a few minutes. CPR keeps you alive long enough to get medical attention, which in this case wasn't available in a reasonable time frame.
Oh, okay.
Also, it will be noted that if someone's heart isn't working, it's better that they get broken ribs than have their heart not work. ABC.
Well, I mean, that's what it is with CPR, right? There is a real good risk that you can break someone's ribs doing it, but
yeah,
I mean, you
but
want to break
that heart
rib, or you
is
want to
more
be dead.
important. Ribs can they'll mend, they'll grow back. If your heart stops,
Stupid ribs, get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
I think right when we were watching it, you highlighted like Grant comes across Ellie, and when he sees her, she has a very dramatic delivery of "run" that she keeps like under her breath, so to speak, almost.
Yeah,
and then they
she says "run."
Collect up, they hug, and I think you were like, "Run!" Like that's
yeah. What are we not running? Are we okay now? I guess not. Maybe
I get that she's desperate,
like,
especially if she knows what happened to Muldoon. But it's just funny. It's like running to the safety of Alan. It's like, no, not safe. keep going.
Alan's pretty great, but I don't know if he's like dinosaur resistant. You know?
Dinosaur resistant. What does that look like?
I don't know. Eventually, the dinosaur will get you, but it'll.
So someone
not
was
quite
wondering,
dinosaur proof yet.
do you guys think it was deliberate that they had the lunch scene right after they saw the feeding scene for the Velociraptor, and then they're indulging in all the desserts here, like happily eating, so to speak, and then we see the Velociraptors are here as well. Like they're here, sort of in a way, it's like they're here for the same reason that you are there right now eating. It's just reflections, I guess, of because they have it quite close together, the ferocious nature of destroying that feeder, and then it cuts to like the meal and the plate being placed for them at lunchtime, and I was like, I wonder if that's on purpose as well. That humans have our desires and designs almost separate us from the animal kingdom happily, but that is still ultimately what we are. Still doing the exact same thing as the Velociraptors.
Maybe, yeah.
Because something I don't like is when they treat dinosaurs as good or evil in this franchise. Like, those are the good hero ones, and those are the non-hero ones, and gosh darn do I love it when that hero T-Rex takes out the villain of the film. It's like, what? What is it? Like, yay, he did it, good T-Rex, or something. It's just like, no, they're animals. They're doing what they're doing because they're hungry, and they want to survive, and they've been built that way. Like, I don't like going further than that. I think it's silly.
Yeah, the whole thing they tried to do with Blue being trained and everything was like
fucking
that was shit because Blue was like almost instantly reverted back to a ferocious wild animal and tried to kill. Is like is Blue trained and friendly or not? Quit going back and forth.
I hate Blue. Like, it's so annoying.
Blue as well. Blue should have so close to fucking dying.
Yeah,
that one chick do like a blood transfusion for the dinosaur. And
my god,
off.
yeah.
one gunshot nearly killed it. So fucking close.
Dude, it's such a like, how did we get here? Like, what is this disaster? You know what's crazy, by the way? I'm looking at the timeline. It's like, all right, this sequence with the Velociraptors about to begin, and it's like, wait, we've only got like 10 minutes of movie left.
Film is real close to ending at this point.
So dense. They get so much shit done. Because if you had told me how much time passes,
you're only halfway into it.
How much time passes from those Velociraptors to the credits? I'd be like, 20 minutes, 25.
Nope.
Like, nope, way less than that. Because
again, you know, the T-Rex, we don't see him until over an hour in, like just over an hour.
Oh, and I guess I'll address it because I don't know, but apparently these, accurately speaking, are not Velociraptors. They are a different kind of raptor.
Utah Raptors, or
it's like Utah Raptors or Utah Raptors.
Utah Raptors.
Utah
they live
Raptor.
In Utah.
No, I know, but
oh, these ones have feathers. It means Utah's predator. It's one word, Utah Raptor.
I thought
like
it might.
So to clarify, they're not from the state of Utah.
Well, I
okay. Well, I guess we're left to speculate on that one then.
I don't know.
It looks like the Utah Raptors. Oh, here, let me get you a picture of the Utah Raptor.
Okay.
He's a cool one. He's one of the bird boys. Look at him.
Well, yeah, maybe this is a hot take, but when I see the illustrations of like raptors that look more like birds, I prefer those to.
You could easily make these lads terrifying. I don't think we have.
There's
any
no way. Yeah,
Yeah,
look at the claws and the teeth, and yeah, I mean, especially if it like plumes up or something to make itself look bigger, that could be terrifying.
I do really like the designs of all the dinosaurs in this film. I think they look cool. I will say that I do have a preference personally for the more bird-like illustrations that I've seen of Velociraptors. Not because I'm a bird, just because I think they look neat.
Mm-hmm.
There is something about there's something about things being almost I don't know. It's weird how I'm kind of thinking about how to phrase it. When things don't look perfect or look aesthetic in a way that makes them look better, because it doesn't seem like you're trying to make them look a certain way, like that's just it as it is. It's like some like Russian rifles and stuff are really ugly sort of looking, but that almost makes them appealing because they look like they're pure utility.
In defense of the does the film did we have this sort of understanding of what they could look like when this film was made? I
don't know,
because I don't know if we. I don't know that we do, which I find interesting, is that our perception of dinosaurs and what they look like has just changed the more that we've learned about them.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but what I thought was when this film was made, this was the presumed science, the leading
that's what
theories,
I'm saying, yeah. Well, I'm seeing some people say yes and some people say no. Oh, feathers weren't discovered yet? Because
I think that's what I've heard.
The imprints of like that on some of the fossils that they found, there's just markings on the bones that have led them to conclude the whole feather aspect. And then, dude, I'm sure plenty of people who watched it. The Kurzgesagt video on what dinosaurs may have actually looked like is super cool. That's a real interesting one in terms of trying to get you to rethink, perceptions of what dinosaurs may have looked like. And a few people are saying watch Prehistoric Planet, which I'll have to throw that on the list. But we got the Velociraptor scene now.
Yes, and I love that she's closed the door on it in that generator room, and he's like, "So there's only the two we got to deal with, right?" And then she's like, "Well, yeah, unless they can figure out how to open doors."
Yeah,
and it's like about that.
That cuts him. I love him breathing on the glass as well.
Yeah, we were talking about these sort of micro interactions with the real world, and there are some things you may forget when you're working with an animatronic, because you're like, I've got it, this is the real thing, done. And then it's like, if people on set are there and in the work to be like, well, I mean, if it breathed real hard and it was hot breath and it went onto the glass, it would do this. Let's make it do this.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That'd be
neat. Yeah,
it looks so good. Look at that. The eye and it looking around.
I love it
just looks so
lenses
good.
And the lids closing around.
The narrowing lids. I know
yeah.
It's so cool to watch.
Way the lips, pull back a little bit.
This is why, by the way, I refuse to, like, I find it interesting when it's fiction, when it's nonsense, like, not nonsense, but not real. Meanwhile, like, yes, people get bored of dinosaurs. I just, I'd love to see these fuckers, you kidding me? But then I feel bad. Because I'd be like, oh no, I watched Jurassic Park. I remember the message of that. Oh dear. I'll be having them in little boxes. And then it's
now,
like,
you
no.
might remember Jurassic Park, but I have a question. Do you remember Disney's 2000 film Dinosaur?
Yeah.
I saw it once,
remember it?
and it's been too long for me to remember it anymore.
I don't remember anything about it.
We had that shit on, I don't know, VHS, DVD, whatever it was. Growing up, I saw that more than once. I don't know if it's good or not.
I don't know if it's good or not.
It had a bunch of lemurs in it.
Well, you know what? That's good. Maybe.
Wisecracking lemurs in my dinosaur movie.
Yeah,
to move it.
we watch the raptors open up the door and they come, and we switching between practical and CG quite a bit in this scene, and you know they were trying to make it seamless, and I appreciate every last effort.
I think they did a great job.
I love them. I think they're fantastic.
I was so impressed. And like the lighting on the CG as well. It's like, wow, man. And the details, like all of the little, like...
What can you even say? Like, I don't expect to ever see this ever again. I don't expect when we watch any movie again that I'll see this. It's like, that's really sad.
Yeah, they'll just pass it to the CGI guys and the characters will suck. And I'll be like, when can I go home?
Well, the thing is, they'll pass it to the CGI guys. It's like, so can we have 4 years like James Cameron gave us? Oh, wait, you're serious? Like...
Because like in the scene that just showed a moment ago, like the two velociraptors standing in the doorway, like those were CGI.
Yeah.
But like they look pretty darn good.
Well, it seems to me that they only ever use CGI when they have no option to do.
When they can't show the body,
practical.
Yeah, because they have the feet, they have the heads, they have the little hands. But when they have to do a full body,
yeah.
Well, Rags, you pointed out when we watched it, and I'm the exact same. It's like burned into my memory, the feet going across the ground and the click clack,
the
taps
claw
on the
tapping on the because we see them because the way it's directed and shot, right? You have the big table and a bunch of shit in the table, right? So you can't see through the table, but underneath it you can see the feet and the claws. From above you can see the head, and then you can have the tail kind of wiggling around behind it. So you don't have to see the body to have the scene completely and totally work. You see all the really dangerous bits. And that's like enough to totally sell you on it. Because moments ago you saw the CGI of the full body, so your mind doesn't even think about, oh yeah, of course there's a body. Like, well, duh. It's just the table's in between us and the body, and so it's the direction paired with the good animatronics paired with the wise use of CGI.
Yeah, because there are
like
some
here,
shots.
You saw the CGI there of them, and it's like what 2 seconds, and here it's like what going to be 4 or 5 seconds, and then whoop, we're already moving on.
And to have done it practically would have been a nightmare when they're like full body.
It would have looked... they're not that good. You can do... If you put a lot of work and effort into making heads, claws, a tail, you can do that. But to make the whole thing walk around, that's just... The technology's just not, quite...
You're not going to get
something
the
else.
movement that you want for them running around.
Yeah, she goes to climb into like a
dumbwaiter.
Yeah.
Or is it just a shelf, or something like that?
But it reflects off the thing is, you're given all the information to know that she is not where it looks like she is, but you can forget that when you see it run into water. Like,
it's so good.
It's very much described in the scene. Like, you can see her getting in, you know that she's not where she then looks like she is, but it's enough to, like, I think a lot of...
Yeah, you see her, the hole right there, yeah.
But you see it, you're like, oh fuck, is she fucked? Is she gonna be able to close it in time? You're like, well, she's fine, because it can't actually get her by going that way. And it's just, it's cool.
Well, there's that element of, like, oh, you were fooled as an audience member, which you probably were. It's like, yeah, the Raptors aren't so dumb, are they? Because it fooled you too. You just thought exactly what they did. How about that, huh?
And then...
yeah, like, give him a little credit.
He runs in to the freezer, immediately chased by the raptor, and he grabs onto, like, I think a pole so he can swing himself to not, like, fling right into the freezer, but of course the raptor can't, and it just slides right in, because yeah, with the power having gone off for so long, things were melted in there, so it's all slippery.
Nice little setup and payoff, and there's a lot of
Exactly.
those nice little moments in there. There's no like big dramatic setup and payoff. It's just a lot of small. Well, I mean, just setting up like several minutes beforehand. Character, there's plenty.
I don't know if one would call this. It's such a strange environment, right? Basically, he's got it locked in, but he hasn't quite got it full. And she knows that this is incredibly desperate. This is your chance to be able to get the raptor stuck in it. So she's fucking screaming her ass off as she runs to it. And I've always found it a little bit funny. Like,
it is. Ah!
Like, get this fucker stuck in there.
It's the hands forward that really
that's
sell it.
It's super desperate and tense because this is your one shot. Got to get it right. And yeah, so that one's locked in. But of course, the third they thought they'd locked in another place is soon to break out. Well, probably has, actually. I don't think they show that happening. Yeah, you get them running away, and it's just like this shot of the Velociraptor staring at them. It's fucking great again. It's just
It's so good.
they spend the whole film building up the Velociraptors, and now we've got them, and they're fucking great.
And now you're running for your life from them in a kitchen.
Yeah, and then they get into the control room. We've got to get that system to reboot, and seriously running out of characters at this point. And this shot where he notices the door isn't locked, pans back up, and the Velociraptor's just staring at him. And then they both look down at the handle. It's so cool. It's fucking terrifying. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be a thing.
It's scary to see a handle turn from the other side. When you're not touching it, like that's scary. That's
Especially when it's
There's a
thing.
fucking
Walks
dinosaur on the
around
other
doing
side.
Yeah.
Like there are dinosaurs chasing us and opening doors. What the fuck is this place?
It's just so ready to eat them. It's like you're making me work so hard to eat you.
I heard there was
Raptor, I don't
Chilean
hear no
sea
bell.
bass in there, and you're not sharing.
I remember the Chilean sea bass. So yeah, I guess the one thing you could say, because you did highlight the line, Rags, that she's like, if I go to get the gun, I can't continue to hold the door. But I
Yes.
suppose she could
Instead,
have told Timmy to grab it for him.
So what she said before this was, "You can't hold it without me," or like, "You need me to." It's like, "I gotta hold this with you." So I don't know if Timmy would be strong enough, which does kind of call into question how he was able to.
I mean, him to pick up the gun and give it to her, or Alan.
I guess, yeah. I wonder if she's even thinking about that in the moment.
That is
I guess
one
she's
thing
like,
I
"Oh,
would
the
allow
kid-
for. The panic of it all is
the panic, and the kids are over by the computer trying to do the thing. I guess they're working together, and I'm just so focused on keeping this door shut that it doesn't even occur to me to ask Timmy.
It's a thing that's happened to me in video games sometimes, where it'll be like an intense battle, it's going back and forth, and I'm like about to die, and then it's like, you had a full heal. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it happens. Your
lose
character has
track of
like
things.
2 abilities, and if you just use them, you would have been okay. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Whoops.
But I was just so ingrained in the moment, I wasn't even thinking about like using an ability or using an item.
And
I
you
was
can
just
argue
so
that
focused.
Ellie believes at that point that the two of them are trying to get the system rebooted.
Absolutely.
Which is quite funny visually, by the way. This insane like database is visualized almost like a cartoon motherboard or something.
Windows 96, what is it? Windows 91, whatever it is.
I'm not
This
sure.
was before Windows 95.
Windows
yeah.
88.
We were talking about it before. It's like, oh, look at the 3D graphics here as you sort through your files. Like,
This is fun.
yeah.
Can you give me this file? Yeah, sure. Let me fly over here. It'll be
Let
3
me
minutes,
fly
but
on my very old computer with these 3D renders in real time.
Someone's highlighted, it's a Unix system. She knows this. She's like, I know this. And it's funny. I think, Rise, you mentioned it's just like the way you show it with the mouse, like you've never used a mouse before. Like,
You've never used a mouse before.
Hey,
You are
look,
not. You're a
computers-
fake gamer
computers,
girl.
like,
You've been detected.
Retail computers. All right, look, it was early.
it's just the way she's, because there's just a way people hold. She's like using
Like,
the
you don't
thumb as a full control over them. It's so strange.
Look at that.
But yeah, the door locks up. It's all good. We made it, folks. And then they call back, and we have some fun lines about, like, Mr. Hammer, the phones are working. I think this is probably the most badass he comes across as well, Alan. Like the blood on his face, the gun in hand. It's just like, get the damn helicopters. But we hear a smash, and I assume that is the Velociraptor they thought was neutralized, or at least in the place with near Muldoon, the generator, and so it's in. And they have this shot of the gun. I meant to look at this again because I wasn't sure if they were trying to tell us he's out of shots or if it's jammed.
Or jammed?
I don't. We hear like 3 or 4, and the way that it's on the ground looks like it's kind of deliberately that way, because there's a shell. I mean, it could be jammed and he just dropped it, or he could be out. But you wouldn't know that you were out. So the way that it looks to me is that it was like a failure to eject, but if you just flip the gun over to the right, it sort of falls out, and you don't know that you're out until you. I don't know specifically what the SPAS 12 mechanism uses, but of course you press the pull the trigger and there's a click and you don't get anything. But the spent casings there very neatly all next to the gun. But I don't know. I guess for whatever reason the gun is either not working or it's out of ammunition.
My assessment would be we saw 3 holes in the glass. There's 2 shells on the floor and 1 stuck in the gun, seemingly, so it didn't eject properly, and he gave up on the gun when that happened.
Really, the most relevant part of this scene is Hammond's face.
Oh, it's...
Oh, yeah.
It's a shame that your video has now made that a meme to me.
Also, interesting, someone just chat about it. I think that's actually... When they show everyone reacting to the Velociraptor coming, I'm not sure if... Let me check again. I don't know if you can see Ellie saying it, but she says, "Oh, it's going to cut through the glass." Yeah, you can't see her saying it. I think they would have thrown that in as ADR to, assuage anyone being like, "How is it getting through the glass?" Like,
I guess it's just
it almost seems like
kicking it or bashing its head or just...
Yeah, it feels like an overcorrection.
Glass.
It's like, don't worry, I can believe it can get through glass, I think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A person can get through glass.
See, if only Grant had the model 1889 Akimbo, he would have been sorted.
fine.
That's
yeah.
true.
I can't believe that they put that. I love that game, but like, holy shit! Like that you have shotguns as a secondary, and one of your options for your secondary shotgun is Akimbo for the shotgun. So you have 2 shotguns instead of one.
The SPAS 12 was in Modern Warfare 2.
The SPAS 12 was insanely good as well as a secondary.
Very long range on it, yeah.
Oh, someone said
and then Black Ops.
It's bad subtitle, and she actually shouts, "It's coming through the glass," which seems more reasonable, yeah. In terms of like less, that comes across as less overcompensating and more normal. In terms of making sure people understand how this is happening, sort of thing. And yeah, we get Hammond looks like he believes right now that his grandchildren might die.
Yeah, it's the most intense reaction you get out of him in the whole movie, and it's very much appropriate.
Yep, it's not because his park is failing, it's not
No,
because the dinosaurs are loose, it's because he thinks his kids are in danger.
The longer the film goes on, the more localized his concerns become.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, Ellie talked to him about who we love is what matters now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we get the Velociraptor searching for him, and then it pokes up the thing, and like I said, you start with animatronic, with his head, gets kicked, and then when we see him again, he's full CG, and we were looking at it for a little bit when we watched this, because I was just so thoroughly impressed with it, and we came down to it's got to be the animation. It's what makes this so believable.
Animation is so important. It seems... Whenever I really notice CGI when it comes to like character, it's always seems to be, man, you seem very light. You don't seem very weighty. I don't feel like you have much heft.
I mean, the dinosaur is way less distracting than the stunt double.
I think the kick that was mentioned, Rags, is like it sort of changes the balance of weight so it can get back up. Like that helps as well. It just looks fantastic.
It's the movement. Detail. It's the way it moves. And it moves in a way where it's quick, not too quick. You could tell it has an amount of weight to it. It kicks so it could kind of get it back on its feet. It's just it just looks so good. It's CG. It's a complete 100% totally CGI dinosaur in a 1993 movie, and it really looks good, and it's terrifying.
This is the almost the opposite of what you get in Ant-Man, where you can tell when really looking into it how detailed the graphics are, right? Which is something I guess you could be critical of, but that's actually where I would bring in, like, this is the most they can do. They literally can't do more. Like, can you see how, like, parts of it have to stretch instead of what looks like... It doesn't look quite like skin, it instead looks like an image.
It's like a
stretching.
For...
very specific parts of the body. This is what I mean. You have to go...
Mainly the
oh,
leg.
yeah, you got to look really closely. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the animations are so damn good that it doesn't even come to mind. And then you have Ant-Man, which will be like... They'll have fucking top-notch resolution and high-tech fidelity in every way, shape, and form, but the animation is so bad you'll never believe it.
The big problem with the Cassie running is not like the fidelity of the suit; it's the animation. It just looks goofy,
and it's something that's so clearly important for the fact that everyone sees it and immediately laughs. And it's like, oh,
well, I think it's the reason why video games often seem as though they look better than they actually, because like video games being rendered in real time on consumer grade hardware, it's never going to look as good as the best that you can do with visual effects at the time. But yet people will often compare stuff like Ant-Man to like a PlayStation 3 game. It's like, well, why is that? PS3 games like don't have as high quality textures. They can't. And it's, well, you play Uncharted 3, it's like the animation's really good. Like the animation does a lot of work for you. Like if you animate a character in a way that like seems convincing, that can overcome like the pure fidelity of it.
Yeah, them cycling through the upper levels gets them being able to come down onto the fossil sort of representations of these important dinosaurs in the main hall, which is just like, what a great place for a set piece. Literally hanging onto the fossils for safety.
Let me ask this. Is it a problem with the movie that the Velociraptor is able to get high enough to stick its head through the panels in the ceiling, but it can't jump high enough to grab her leg?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That doesn't really make much sense. Yeah. I don't think it has much of a consequence as a problem, though.
On a desk or something. I don't know.
Maybe. If you look around the room, see if there is a potential for that. That could be it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's standing on anything taller or the room has a bunch of tables and stuff it could be on, but...
But yeah, I quite love this sequence for just the absolute chaos. All these different pieces are all coming apart. Everyone's trying to hang on to each of them, and then the strings are coming apart gradually as well, with the Velociraptors moving around. One has jumped on and one's on the bottom, right? They're all just so much happening all at once, and even the individual pieces are knocking the others.
Can't imagine for a Velociraptor's brain how it's processing all this madness.
It just wants to eat, man. It's like, I'm hungry. These hamburgers are weird.
Or there's no meat on these big ones. I'll eat all these little boys.
And yeah, once they're all down, you just get Ellie like staring at the silhouette of the Velociraptor, and it pokes his head up like, there you are. It's like, oh fuck. Yeah, and then the other one's in, and so it's just game over basically, because there's nowhere else to go. But something to appreciate is that Alan keeps himself in front of everybody. He's a good lad.
I'll punch you in the face.
And then, right as the raptor's about to pounce at him, Hero T-Rex comes in and grabs the Velociraptor, which is timing is perfection. Apparently, like I'm highlighting how lucky they are, and
nobody heard it.
This is the I was saying to Rags, I don't know why they did it that way. I think it would have been perfect during the tense scene to have the building up sound, not even show him skin up, but just have those sounds, the doom. While everything's
the bones
happening,
on the floor can rattle just very subtly, and then maybe they just they turn their heads to look at something off screen, and then as the raptor pounces, it gets grabbed. Like the Grant and crew are distracted by the T-Rex walking in, that they don't really look at they turn away from the Velociraptor for a moment, just to imply that they just noticed it showed up.
Well, and you could even do a different kind of shot where the two Velociraptors are moving in, Grant's looking at both of them, and then we have the shot of him looking to the center almost and up and terrified. Then both the Velociraptors turn and look, because they haven't realized it yet either. And,
or the Velociraptors are maybe in front of them, and then the T-Rex comes from behind, and they scurry away from the middle as the dinosaurs start going after each other or something.
Yeah.
Something, But yeah, it is kind of strange. how it just
Well, and this
shows
this
up.
by the way is the origin of Hero T-Rex. I don't particularly mind him attacking raptors. That's fine. But he ends
They're
up killing
dangerous,
the
yeah.
villain humans in like all the fucking films. Like Lost World starts that up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's because of this movie I think that they did
Well,
that.
wait, the villain in well, I guess T-Rex killed the Indominus Rex, kind of.
Also, Lost World T-Rex
Kingpin got
kills
killed by the
businessman guy.
raptors. Yeah.
I don't think they do it in Jurassic Park 3 because the T-Rex is killed by the Spinosaurus to be like, look, Spinosaurus is scarier. And it's like, okay. I remember
If you
fans
say
were
so.
very upset by that, by the way. People like the T-Rex.
Everybody likes the T-Rex. He's cool.
Well, it's just funny because I don't... If you show a Spinosaurus
Okay,
beating a T-Rex, unless I know different from, like, biology or history or whatever as to which would win the fight, I don't have, like, a stake in T-Rex to the point where I don't want him to see him lose to anyone. You know, he's just... It's an animal. It can be killed, sure. But I remember people were very much upset to see the T-Rex defeated by the Spinosaurus, especially because I think the goal, filmmaking-wise, was to be like, see? Spinosaurus is scarier. You should be more scared of him. But I haven't seen that movie in so long, like, I can't even say more than that. But yes, the T-Rex is summoned like Iron Man in Jurassic World to help, like, an actual superhero type situation where they're dealing with the Indominus Rex, and it's like, the T-Rex and the Mosasaurus essentially team up to kill him, right? You could argue.
Mm.
And then Fallen Kingdom, the T-Rex eats the villain again. It's kind of like Lost World. And I don't know about Dominion, but I assume the T-Rex has hero moments in that as well. I don't know, I just find it lame.
It was cool the first time, alright?
Also, this is what I mean. I don't really see the problem. That element isn't here with this. The T-Rex is just eating the Velociraptors.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a hero just from a point of view that it helped you out, but like it's not doing it because it wants to help
Well,
you.
they need to get the fuck
Just
out because he will eat them next.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's not.
exactly.
It seems much
Exactly.
more neutral in that regard. But yeah, they get out, and he's like, "Mr. Hammond, I've
And then you
decided
got
not to endorse your
the
park."
iconic shot.
No, I know,
You
but I
gotta-
wanted to mention the
Yeah.
because we did kind of talk about the banner, right?
Oh,
I think
it's
Robert
so
mentioned
good
it.
though. Look at him. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're right. It
It's-
is fantastic. Oh, an honorable mention to the second raptor jumping onto the T-Rex.
It's pretty Chad. It's a shame that it didn't work out. Yes.
Chad, but there's a Chad move, but I'm not certain how you thought this would end.
He's hoping for the best, I suppose. And yeah, I like that quote from Alan because it's like we fucking finally did it after all those efforts, and he's just summarizing in a very calm and civil way. Yeah, no. But the thing that I think almost makes it even better is the fact that he says, neither am I. Like, I'm not endorsing it either. It's like, hey, we got there.
We got his arc. You know what? Nah.
Yeah, this was a mistake. This was an error. And yeah, that's I think pretty much for the rest of the film, it's just they leave.
That's it.
Those are
That's
the
last
final
line
words of the
dialogue.
film, I think.
The rest of it is just reactions, them getting on the helicopter and the way that each of them are sort of just, looking as they're reflecting on their experience.
And yeah,
As
just
if it's
Hammond-
almost like a recognition of once this guy thinks it's a mistake, that's
That's
it.
it,
There's
yeah.
not really anything else needs to be said. Like that's the end.
Well,
And
it's,
then we get the
Hammond's
shot
hopes
of-
and dreams have all been shattered, and he's had to realize a lot of realities he didn't want or need to be true for him, but it's
Not
undeniable.
look. Yeah, look at him there, looking at the mosquito in the sap.
Such a great shot. So many. We didn't even see what Hammond was looking at, but he was just looking out. I mean, in the shot before that, where he's on that landing pad, but he's just looking over at the island. All of it. It's just that was a mess. So much for that sort of thing. We get Ellie looking surprisingly chill, almost happy, and it's because she's seeing Alan with the two kids. Remember, she's made a couple comments about how she's hoping to have a kid, and it's just a nice little completion of that arc as well.
Yep. And then you've got Malcolm sitting off to the side.
Malcolm,
pretty,
who's not in the middle.
Oh,
No, he's quite quiet and melancholy as well. Just sort of
Someone
looking-
else pointed
the
out.
thing is, he
no
was
one
just
is,
correct about everything, so you can
Yeah,
just
he was.
you can sit back. You've done your work.
Someone in chat's pointing out that no one is celebrating. It's a somber moment when they escape. They're
Well,
not
no,
going,
because-
whoopee, we did it, woohoo.
A lot of people died,
Yep.
and it feels like it's reflected. This was a bad day. It's just relief, if anything. it's over.
Mhm.
And not a word necessary. And then, yes, we got that shot there of the birds flying along, which, yeah, I mean, another instance of something where it's like, that's very deliberate. You can read into that what you want.
Just life being life, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what all of this was. Why it went all wrong.
I mean, references to how dinosaurs essentially became birds. You know,
Became
you get these
birds.
birds. You know,
yeah.
and they're out there. You know, dinosaurs are still out there in a way. Anyway, yeah, in a sense, in a way.
Oh, and this last shot of the helicopter riding off into the sunset.
Directed by
Look at
Steven
that.
Spielberg.
Good man. Isn't it crazy how many like of the best films ever made Steven Spielberg has made? Isn't that nuts?
He's behind quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, this is funny
It's
because
just
we were hanging out a bit with Gary as well when we were talking about this movie, and it's like my pick for his movies is going to be Saving Private Ryan, but it's
That is
not.
my number one.
Jurassic Park is not far away. I fucking adore this film, and it's funny because Gary was saying like he was talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, how much he loves it, and I was like, oh, is that your favorite? And he was like, no, it's Raiders. And I was just like, oh fuck yeah, of course he made Raiders as well.
And then of course Schindler's List as well. He made. It's Jaws.
It's
Last Crusade.
Oh, of course, that would be my favorite of those three.
That's my favorite, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, would that be your favorite Spielberg film?
Maybe.
Maybe it's
Interesting.
I'm
definitely
not certain, but
Yeah.
definitely pencil it in.
Mine is Saving Private Ryan.